Welcome to Gen X Adulting, and today we have Ali with us. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
We're very happy to have you. Our first question is always, when were you born?
1998.
1998. So you are a Gen Z, and you are part of that cusp micro generation that is also a Zillennial. Have you heard of that?
I have not. It's the
So,
first time I'm hearing that.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Zillennials, basically, they're this small micro generation that grew up pretty technology free as far as phones and social media. And that stuff was more introduced in late middle school, high school. So you guys really got the privilege of having a childhood that did not involve social media and did not involve that 24/7 access of phones. And then you also got the privilege of experiencing the birth of all that, when you were probably more of a mature age and can handle it versus the young Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas now, which are social media kids.
Yeah.
So you kind of got the best of both worlds. I always say you had a bit of an old fashioned upbringing where social media wasn't present when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. You can probably relate to the younger millennial generation and also to Gen Zs that are a few years younger than you. So you kind of have a foot in each generation a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I think I'd agree with that, especially because if we talk about social media, I was on social media probably around 14 years old on Facebook. That was the primary social media back
Right,
then.
right.
But I think the difference was it wasn't on my phone.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I got my first phone when I was 13, and it was a Nokia that could call my parents. That's all I
Yeah.
had on there. I had the game Snake on there.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Hmm.
But if I wanted to go on social media, I'd have to be at home on my laptop.
And that was Facebook, right?
Facebook.
Now,
correct.
did you were after the MySpace, right? You didn't have that,
I
did
did
you?
not have MySpace.
Okay, yeah, because I think that cut off, and then the older Gen Zs was Facebook,
Yeah.
and then Snapchat. I don't think, and Instagram. That was more what, high school?
That was, I think I got Instagram around 10th grade,
Yeah,
I would say. So I was 15, 14, 15, no, 15.
yeah,
Yeah, and even Instagram back then was a little different. I was like posting pictures of my meals
right.
and like a view.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
changed a lot. And I went back a few years ago just to see all the stuff I used to post and my old posts, make sure there's nothing on there that
Cringy.
cringy. Yeah, right. When you're going into getting a job, starting a career, etc., you want to make sure you cover your tracks from anything you may have done when you were just too mature.
Yeah,
And it was interesting. It was all stuff with filters, and it's like, here's the sunset,
Yeah.
here's a picture of my food, things like that. Versus
Yeah.
now, it's just feels like mostly it's pictures of people and things like that.
right. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting how it's evolved from the beginning, and then even Facebook. I don't think you guys would be caught dead posting updates on Facebook now.
No,
But when it first came out, I think a lot of your age expressed themselves like in their what is it called? Where you post like how you're feeling today or whatever it is. I think in the beginning you guys utilized that, right?
very much so. Yeah, and it was especially not having the phones. When I look at it now, because on Facebook, it'll give you updates. You posted this 10 years ago
Yeah.
today or 12 years ago today, and it just feels like you would go to school at that age, spend the whole day, and come back with some thought or some idea, happy about something, pissed off about something, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and then you just come and you drop that on social media, just unprovoked. And I do send some of those posts to our group chat with like me, Nathan, and a bunch of our friends, and it was like, God, I was a shithead. I would just post anything and everything, whether it's about my teacher, how I felt, my coach, sports team, whatever it is, and look back and you're like,
Yeah.
now
Well,
how big it is, probably shouldn't be posting all that stuff.
no, and that's where I think it can become dangerous, especially for the younger kids now that and especially with TikTok, like they're posting a bunch or they're reposting things, and it can be a very deep emotional moment for them, and they repost a video about it, and then like 48 hours later they're fine, but then that repost is coming up in all their friends feeds, and their friends are like, oh my god, are they okay? But it's so fleeting. All those emotions are so fleeting when you're an adolescent.
Yep.
And just the heaviness of the effect of it. And at least with Facebook, I think when it first came out, you could post stuff about your teachers and coaches and no one was coming at you. But now people will come for you.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, the kids, if they post things about teachers, coaches, anything about drinking, like you can't put anything up about partying, it affects even getting into college, which
Yeah.
I don't think you guys had to deal with that worry.
I did not. No, it wasn't even the thought, honestly, going into college. Never had anything like too bad on there. It was more so, like you said, going through puberty, especially as a boy turning into a
Yeah.
man. I don't know how it is on the other side, but I imagine it's similar. Just a
It's
lot of
brutal.
emotions, right?
It's
Just
brutal.
getting pissed off at absolutely nothing,
Hmm.
being overly excited about stuff, like
Yeah.
posting your celebrity crushes as a young boy, things like that, right? But then never was a thought going into college or applying for that until my freshman year. For my personal experience was when I joined a fraternity, and they're like, "All right, this shit's gonna follow you around everywhere. We need to go on there and scrub everything."
Oh,
No
that's
kidding.
excellent.
Yeah. And that was something that was common for my fraternity. I think it was a commonality across most fraternities, but it's like, all right, you're eventually going to want to get a job. You were 15 at one point, 14. Go on there and anything bad, take it off.
Wow. That was such a service to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, so what would you say is your primary social media you use now?
Instagram.
And what about Snapchat?
No, I just deleted it probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Do you find that your peers don't use Snapchat like they used to?
I find that most what was going on Snapchat for me was the group chats that we made in college,
Hmm.
and it's just a way to stay in touch with everyone. So had a couple on Snapchat, and that's what it was used for. Versus when I was in college, it was like a means of communication, sending pictures, which I felt like declined a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How do
Okay.
you guys communicate now then? Via just text? No
Text.
longer Snapchat?
Yeah,
Okay.
text mostly. On Instagram, it's a lot of sending DMs, like videos, posts,
Okay.
things like that. We'll have groups on Instagram.
Yep.
But it's mostly text. FaceTime has gotten a lot bigger as well.
Really?
All close friends, it's usually FaceTime.
So you guys will text and FaceTime,
Yes.
but not just do the traditional phone call.
Sometimes, but
Okay.
most often it's FaceTime. Like, I don't think I speak to Nate on the phone unless it's FaceTime.
That's
Just to
so
give an example.
interesting.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. So it's kind of evolved where it started with maybe Snapchat and posting on Facebook and putting pictures of your food on Instagram, and then as you grow and mature, you are now into how quote unquote more adults communicate as far as texting and using the phone to talk, even if it's FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, as you get older, that's really interesting. Okay, where were you born?
I was born in Manhattan, New York.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
All right, so how did your parents meet?
My parents lived down the street from each other. So their families knew each other since they were very, very young, went to the same school.
And where is this?
Casablanca, Morocco.
Okay, so your family is from Casablanca, Morocco.
Yes.
And your parents lived down the street from each other in Morocco,
Mhm.
went to the same school from young age?
From elementary school, is my understanding.
Really?
Yes.
And were they friends?
They were friends. My parents started, I don't know if the word's dating, but showing interest in each other at a very young age. Like, my dad always tells me a story where he used to have either soccer practice, or my dad was a handball goalie. So like the sport handball, and he would have practice, and my mom would leave school, go up home, bring him back food for like to have after practice, things like that. So very young age.
Okay, so that I would say that she liked him if she was
Yes.
doing.
Yes. Very much so.
All right, is handball a sport common in Morocco?
Not too common, no. I don't know how we got into it. And being a handball goalie is very interesting because you just stand there and people just throw a ball at you.
Yeah.
And
at
you
your
try to
face.
catch it with your hands?
Block it, catch it, whatever you need to do just to make sure it doesn't go in the goal.
Do
But,
they kind of tee off on you, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
I've never
And
heard
from
of
a very
handball.
close distance.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
It's
Yeah.
semi-dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
So how would you, is it like soccer, but you're using your hands?
Exactly right. Yeah.
And so you're basically can pitch it at the goalie.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Was he just padded up?
No pads,
No, I don't. It's
What about helmet?
no helmet.
No helmet, no pads.
No.
Is that a Moroccan thing or is that general with that sport?
It's an international sport, yeah. That's just the rules.
So it's just, wow.
Yeah.
So no one's wearing pads.
No.
if you think about it, it's probably maybe not in his case, but it's a very inexpensive sport. You can play anywhere on any playground without any money or facilities, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's just raw.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why
Just a
soccer's so big.
Yeah.
Because all you need is a ball.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
growing up in Morocco, when we used to play soccer, we used to use like 2 rocks for each goal and a soccer ball playing on the street. And the area I lived and my friends in Morocco were pretty well off, pretty wealthy, right? So
Mhm.
they had the means, but that was just the appeal to the sport. You didn't need much. You just needed a ball and a couple guys, low barrier of entry.
And you could just set it up and
Set it
go.
up,
Mhm.
play, just see
Okay.
kids playing.
So they met, or they grew up together basically. Now, were their parents friends since they lived down the street from each other?
I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Okay,
But
because that's your grandparents,
yeah,
right? So, and then did they have siblings?
yeah, my mom is one of 7, and my dad's one of 8. I believe. I may
Wow.
be wrong on my dad's side, but I'm pretty sure it's 8.
Do you know where they fall in the birth order?
Uh, my mom is, I think, 3rd or 4th oldest.
Okay.
My dad, I'm not sure.
And are their siblings still alive?
All siblings are still alive.
Wow.
Yes. My dad lost a sister.
Okay. And do they
one of
all
my
live in
aunts.
Morocco?
They, on my mom's side, everyone lives in Morocco except my aunt who lives in Tampa. That's
Mm.
who I lived with when I first moved here, St. Petersburg, actually. And my dad's side, all in Morocco. Yeah, all in Morocco.
Wow. Okay, so you have a lot of family in
A
Morocco.
lot of family.
So they grew up pretty much together. When did they get married? Like, how old were they? Do you know?
I don't know how old they were. I think they got married in 91,
91.
maybe 92.
Okay. Did they go to college in Morocco, or is it called a college in Morocco?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't think my mom went to college. I think my dad did some sort of secondary school after high school.
Do you know what he studied?
He was studying finance because he worked at a bank after
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So he's studying finance. Did they get married while he was in school still? Do you know?
I don't believe so. Pretty positive he was out of school.
Okay.
A little
And
blurry on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
and
The
I know
then
my parents,
investigator
by the
here.
way.
and then did they lived in Morocco though together
Mhm,
in Morocco?
mhm.
But then they got married in Morocco.
Got married in Morocco, lived in Morocco. 1994, they had my older brother, Hamza,
In Morocco?
in Morocco.
Okay.
And they had gone to visit St. Petersburg at some point when they were married, and that's what caused them to move here. My mom really liked it. My dad really liked it, so they relocated here.
Okay. So they just randomly took a trip to Florida.
Mhm.
But
It
how
may have been their honeymoon.
Oh, interesting.
It's
may
an
have-
important note.
It-
St.
yeah.
Petersburg, Florida, not St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yes.
We have a lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that listen from
Yeah,
everywhere.
St. Petersburg, Florida.
Florida.
So
Yeah.
okay, so it might have been their honeymoon. Okay, so how did you get born in Manhattan though? What's the tie there?
I hope this doesn't get them in trouble, but they had friends there in New York, and they went over there when my mom was pregnant with the idea of, we have this kid in the U.S.
Mm.
He's going to be an American citizen,
Mm-hmm.
probably make his life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. They had me. I was in New York for probably 2 months, maybe shorter than that.
Mm.
Not really entirely sure. And then we came back to Casablanca, and then I was in Casablanca for about a year or two, and then I moved over to St. Petersburg. That's where we officially moved.
So do you have dual citizenship?
No, I'm an American citizen.
You're American
that's all.
citizen.
Yeah, I need to get my Moroccan citizenship. It's just,
Is that challenging to do?
No.
Okay, so
No.
you could have it.
yeah, I have a Moroccan birth certificate. I just need to get a passport and like an ID card. Reason I didn't get it last time, it's a little bit of a process. You got to go a little bit out of town to get it, and I was only there for 2 weeks. Last couple times I've gone, so let's enjoy our time instead of
Right, right.
dealing
Dealing
with
with
the Moroccan bureaucracy.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
So for people who've never been to Morocco, how would you describe it?
Morocco is a beautiful place. I'll start with that. Plenty of different types of areas. What I mean by that is, on the northern coast, you have the Mediterranean. So similar to a lot of the Mediterranean countries, right? And then on the other side, it's the Atlantic. So you have a lot of coastal areas. Then you go inland. There's mountain ranges, the Atlas Mountains, known in Morocco. And then when you go south, there's the desert. So there's a
Wow.
little bit of everything, right? We have
Yeah.
snow, we have the desert, we have the beach and that kind of climate. So there's plenty to do there. From Morocco as kind of like a cultural place, it's a mix of Arabic Muslim culture and some European and even American influence. I'd say mostly European because it was colonized by Portugal and then France and then Spain, right? So that left remnants of that kind of culture. So it's pretty interesting when you look at some of the other Muslim countries that are a lot more traditional and culturally just 100% through and through Muslim
Hmm.
compared to Morocco, where it's a little more easygoing. Mostly everyone's still Muslim, but a little more laid back, if you will.
So women don't have to be covered.
No, they don't have to be. A lot of them are. A lot of them aren't. A lot of the younger generation isn't.
Okay.
Um, but like if you're a Moroccan woman there and you're not covered and you're wearing something you'd see a woman wearing here, no one's gonna say anything to you. It's normal.
Okay.
Mhm.
Would you say women are held to as high of esteem in Morocco as they are in America? Like they're just as safe and they can walk around on their own in Morocco?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
It's not really a safety thing. It's more of a cultural thing where it's like, well, you shouldn't be out by yourself walking around, right? Like you should most
yeah.
likely be with a man. I think a lot of women also view themselves a little differently from that aspect. Like, I'm not just going to go out and do all this stuff like a man would do. I'm a woman. I'm going to
Hmm.
take care of myself. I'm getting married, having a family is a big thing over there, very important. But I don't think there's any like fear or risk or anything from that angle.
And so it's still very
Yes,
traditional values.
traditional values for sure.
And then you said there's European and some American influence. Does that mean there's European and Americans that live in Morocco?
Plenty. Yeah, a
And
lot
do
of them.
they live in, like, is it kind of segregated or is it all mixed
All
together?
mixed together.
And when you're in Morocco, do you feel all of those influences as you're going around the area, or does it still feel very, um, I guess, Muslim or more the majority of what the population is?
You definitely feel the influence in the mix. For example, French. Everyone in Morocco speaks French. Mostly everyone in Morocco speaks French.
Okay.
And it's kind of like it's funny, it's kind of like a signaling thing. So the families that are wealthy and their kids go to private schools, etc., the kids mostly speak French.
Okay.
That's why I learned French when I went
Hmm.
there. But there's definitely a large mix. And you see it a lot with my generation as they grow up. They go to college overseas. I feel that there's a lot more European and American tendencies that they pick up, whether they're positive or negative, than you would see in older generations.
Now, is there a college there or university?
There's plenty. Yeah.
Really? So
Yeah.
how big how would you compare it the size of Morocco? Like if you're going to compare it to a state in
Uh,
America.
it's about 40 million people.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
and sizing wise, if you count the Sahara, which you should, um, it's probably the size of California, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah, I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure.
It's kind of runs vertical like that though.
Yeah, exactly. Same
yeah.
shape
Same
or
shape.
similar
Yeah.
shape. Yeah.
And then you mentioned like so there's some wealthy areas and then are there really poor areas
Yes.
too?
Yeah.
Just like anywhere, right?
Just like anywhere, but it's worse than you would see here in the U.S. Like there's areas that barely have running electricity.
Mm,
May or may not have water. Kind of just like shacks that people have built.
mm-hmm.
But every time I've gone back to Morocco since I moved here from Morocco in 2014, that's been slowly and slowly getting eliminated. And they're building, the government's building apartments, things like that, to put people up in and get them out of those like shacks and things like that. It's an eyesore. It's tough
Hmm.
to see the people living there. So they've been really combating that, and I think they've more or less been pretty successful.
That's great. So what is the government system there? Is it like here where you vote for a leader every 4 years or how does it
No,
compare?
it's a monarchy.
Yeah.
So it's the royal family. They have a king.
Okay.
After the king, his son becomes king, and
Okay.
after him, his son becomes king.
And
Um,
they're running the show.
they're running everything. Yeah, there's elected officials that run different parts of the government, but at the end of the day, the king is the ruler, the leader, and he can influence or change or make anything that he wants to do as he sees fit.
So it's not like in Britain where the monarchy is more kind of at this point like for tourism or anything else, but they have a totally different system running the show in Morocco.
It's not a democracy.
Right,
No,
right.
no.
So is there a lot of corruption, do you think?
There's definitely a lot of corruption. Yeah. There's a lot of corruption, and it's interesting because a lot of the corruption that you see is within the elected officials. So they get
Mm.
elected and then they lean towards corruption, which is very interesting. Um, from the king's side, I don't think there has been much corruption or anything that the people have been necessarily upset about. It's very, very interesting to see the love and respect that he gets as a ruler that wasn't chosen and is just he's going to be the ruler until he passes away.
And so
Um,
people revere the
yes,
family.
yes,
Um, and and I'm sure that family has created a lot of pride for Moroccans.
yes, very much so. Especially this, I don't want to say new king because he was the king when I was born. Probably became king in '98 or maybe somewhere around there. But he has been a very big proponent of kind of similar to what the rest of the world's dealing with globalization, bringing in foreign companies, bringing in like expanding Morocco across Africa, and just making the economy thrive more, bringing in more options for companies, jobs, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and growing the countries from an economic standpoint. And I think you see that now where it's flourished, where Morocco is number one country in Africa, pretty much everything runs through Morocco in Africa,
Wow.
I would
Yeah.
say, yeah. And it's definitely a reason for that is the Arab Spring and all of the stuff that happened with all of those governments being overthrown. That never happened in Morocco.
Hmm.
The king stayed, never really had any big issues. Um, but yeah,
Wow. So, what are the industries? What would you say the main industries are in Morocco?
I wouldn't be able to speak about that much. Honestly, I'd probably be guessing. I know tourism is probably top three, I would
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
But other than that, not really too familiar.
What is the main food?
Main food. We eat a lot of different things. I mean, lamb is big over there. Cow, so like steak, ground beef, all that stuff. Chicken, fish, a lot of fish. And we have our traditional dishes, right? Like tagine is a very popular. If you go there, definitely try it. It's a variation of meats, right? It's the tagine is the mechanism it's cooked in, so it's kind of like a
Okay.
clay slow cooker that you put over a fire, and then inside of it you put any type of veggies with a protein. So like a very common one, they'll put like a lamb shank in there with
Hmm.
like apricots. Oh my god, it's so good.
That
It's
sounds
like
It
good.
sounds so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like a sweet sauce. That's big. Chicken and potatoes in the tagine. That's big. And then they have a lot of other traditional stuff. Bastila, that's a big one. It's like a little pastry that they'll stuff either with seafood or chicken and almonds
Oh,
for a sweeter
yum.
one. Couscous every
Mm.
Friday. That's a tradition.
Why on
Most
Friday?
I should know, but I don't.
So every Friday
Every
you
Friday. That's
get can get
couscous day.
couscous everywhere,
Yeah.
but or it's made in the home
It's
too.
made in the home, but restaurants have it on the menu and they'll only serve it on Friday. Yeah.
Really? That is so interesting. Now, what about a dessert? Is there a certain dessert that's from that area?
Uh,
Like I know for me, being Armenian, it's baklava.
mhm.
Like that's one of them. But see, we are more Middle Eastern, like pilaf
Yeah.
and hummus. But I don't. Is Morocco
Not
lean that way at all?
not as much, no. And I think that's a common misconception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I would have had that
Yeah.
misconception.
Like
Okay.
you can get that a lot of places in Morocco. Very common. People eat it a lot, but it's not
Hmm.
the traditional food.
That is so
Yeah.
interesting.
From a dessert standpoint, I don't know. We have these little pastries. Everything's honey based,
Mm.
really, really good. But it's interesting. Like in Morocco, when you say dessert's coming out. They're bringing out a plate of fruit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So my entire life after the meal, you'd bring out bananas, apples, oranges,
Like cut up.
watermelon, depending on the fruit. Bananas, apples, not cut up. Watermelon is cut up. Um, Cantaloupe, um, all types of melons, and just depending on what's in season. It's not like here where, of course, we have seasons for fruits here, but you can get the fruit any time of year you want it,
Hmm.
more or less. Over there, it's very segmented by season. So, like
Okay.
summer, you're eating watermelon, etc.
Okay.
Is most of the fruit grown in Morocco that you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Is there a particular drink that's
Tea,
tea, like a Moroccan
Moroccan
tea?
tea, mint based. But tea's huge. Like you go to someone's house, they're making you tea.
So almost like a British vibe in a way, kind of, or
Kind of, it's a
no?
little different. It's a little
Okay.
different. I
Moroccan
know.
tea.
Yeah, Moroccan tea. It's our tea. It's tastes
Okay.
different. It's the Moroccan specialty.
Does it have
Like
caffeine or is it more of an
yes,
herbal tea?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it definitely does.
Ugh.
And coffee. Coffee's huge.
And I'm sure Moroccan coffee is amazing.
Very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. And it's interesting because you'll have dinner at 9 p.m. and they'll bring out coffee afterwards.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
And
Like
then are you up then? Like, no, it doesn't affect
no,
you?
no. Like
Sounds perfect.
I know for
when
you.
our friends, when like me, Ben, Mac, Jesus, shout out to all the guys, all came to Morocco with me. They were like, what are we doing? Like we'd have dinner at 9, we're drinking coffee at 10 p.m. And my entire family, there's like 40 people in the room, we're all drinking coffee. And
Wow.
they're all confused. They're like, what is this? And then afterwards, it's like, all right, guys, we're going to bed. Doesn't
It doesn't, well, probably it's such a part of the culture, their bodies are used to it.
I
So
would
they
think
have the
so.
react.
Mhm.
So then if dinner is later, then is everyone kind of sleeping in and breakfast is later? Or are people up at an early time still, even if they're going to bed later?
People are up at an early time, I would say. Similar thing. Work starts at 8, right?
Okay.
Very similar. But we had me in town, my friends in town, right?
Okay.
So everything was slightly delayed. We were just getting together, enjoying our time.
Yeah,
together.
relaxing.
Yeah, exactly.
So is the culture among Moroccans, do they try to marry other Moroccans? Is it kind of looked down upon to not marry Moroccan?
It depends who you ask.
Okay.
It's not looked down upon, I don't think, by any means. But your mom and your dad want you to bring home a Moroccan girl.
Okay.
My mom says that to me all the time. Like, where do you think I'm gonna meet Moroccan women in
Yeah.
Florida? Like,
Yeah,
there's not a
yeah.
Moroccan stop where I can go.
Yeah.
All right, here's a bunch of great Moroccan women that I can introduce myself to and get to know. But it definitely is, and especially you got to understand it from the perspective that it's a communication thing. Like my
Mhm.
brother's married to an American woman. Her family is half white, Caucasian, American, and half from Guyana.
Mm.
So she knows my mom, my family very well. She's the mother of my nephew. But it's a communication barrier. When she goes over there, my mom, it's easier over text because my mom can translate, send back a text in Arabic. She'll translate, send back a text in English.
Yeah.
But it's a communication thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so your parents move over to Florida and you're a baby, right? What, 1, 2?
Yeah.
And just them, they didn't know anyone in St. Petersburg?
They had some friends in St. Petersburg, but I don't know if they met them there. They had a couple
Mhm.
Moroccan friends, or if they just happened to come around at the same time.
Do you know how your family reacted to them leaving, like their parents?
It's a great question. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was a big deal at the time.
It probably was.
Probably.
Because if
yeah.
everyone else is still there even,
Yeah.
that would have been such a break. Like, what courage on their part to kind of break away and go on this adventure
Yeah.
and leave
Absolutely.
all this family, all this tradition, all this culture to move to America.
Mhm.
Do you know if there was a certain motivation in that, or was it really just wanting to have that experience of living over here?
I'm honestly not entirely sure. I'd imagine there was some sort of motivation. I mean, you can make a lot more money here. That's for
Mm.
sure. You can set your family up for a lot better life, and it's not too difficult to come here and make normal money and be able to support people in Morocco because everything's a lot cheaper. So
Hmm.
that may have played a factor into it. It may have just been looking for a better education or um, a better life for their kids. Not to say that life in Morocco is tough or difficult from where they were at in their lives, but yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. These are all just thoughts that I would think if I was in their position, things that I
Yeah.
would look at as positives.
And then did your dad get a job as soon as he got over here?
He owned a business, yeah.
What was his business?
He owned a gas station food spot, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Stereotypical.
No, but that's lucrative.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Very
is.
lucrative. Was your mom a stay-at-home mom?
Yes.
And
My-
so she raised your brother and you in St. Petersburg, and your dad had the gas station.
Yes. So she worked at my dad's restaurant in Morocco when my brother was a baby. So my dad owned in their neighborhood. He owned a restaurant, and then he owned a convenience store, like a corner store.
So he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's always been an entrepreneur.
Okay. So when he got out of the school for finance, did he go right into starting a business?
He was
He was at the bank, right? And then from there, did he open his first business?
Yes.
In Morocco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opened businesses with friends, family. And it started off as the restaurant. That was something that he did throughout his time in Morocco, even when we went back. Restaurant business. At certain points, he had multiple. And then my mom would work in the restaurant. She'd work in the convenience store, kind of just wherever she saw fit. And she was raising my brother at that time. And then when I was born, that was it. She was just a stay-at-home mom.
So I think I know one of the reasons that your parents moved to. Your dad has an entrepreneurial spirit. I didn't say entrepreneurial spirit. America, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
right.
this is where if you have, especially for that spirit, it's going to flourish here.
Yeah.
So I bet that had something to do with it. He's like, I can do this here. I can probably make even more money over in America doing this because he had that talent.
Yeah.
That natural talent.
If I would guess, I would say so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you're giving me a lot of great questions to ask.
I know
my
this is
family.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these things you don't ask your parents growing up.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I've never thought about these things.
When you ask them, record it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my advice for you.
I do have a question before we go too far. Is there a Moroccan community here? And then the more importantly, are there any good Moroccan restaurants in the area?
There is an incredible Moroccan restaurant right down the street from me in Morocco called Zuri. If you're ever
in Miami?
In
Miami.
In
Yeah,
Miami.
sorry. In Miami. If you're ever down there, highly recommend it. Some French guy came over here from France and opened it, or from Morocco and opened it. Moroccan community in Florida, I'm not too sure. You go to Boston, where I lived for a little bit.
Yeah.
Plenty of Moroccan people.
Okay.
New York, same thing. I'm sure we're everywhere.
Yeah.
We really are everywhere. It's
Have you
very
met
funny.
anyone in South Florida that's Moroccan?
Yeah. Our friend Serain, me and Nathan's friend, he's
Yeah.
Moroccan.
Okay.
I met some Moroccan people in Miami. There's
Any ladies?
no,
No, and have not that you know of,
not
right?
that I know of.
It's so hard in Miami because you're like, you can't be like, oh, you look Moroccan because you're not sure, right?
I can see someone and tell they're Moroccan.
Oh, you
It's
can.
very, very funny, and it's very easy. Like, I can see. Last time this happened to me, a waiter was just walking by my table, and I called him over, and I go, "You're Moroccan." He goes, "Yes, I am." I don't know what it is. It's very easy.
That's so interesting.
And my brother's the same way. My cousins are the same way. They'll see someone out, they won't even speak, and they're like, "You're Moroccan."
Wow.
That's fun.
It's like a little special talent you have. Like a superpower, Moroccan superpower.
I guess so. You're like, "You're one of us."
Yeah.
I can tell.
So how long did they live in St. Petersburg?
About 8 years.
Okay, so you preschool, kindergarten,
Kindergarten, first grade. I left in first grade, 2006.
and so you were speaking English, I assume, and French.
No French.
So your mom didn't keep it going at home.
No, my mom spoke to me in Arabic.
Arabic.
Yeah.
So you knew Arabic and English.
Exactly, yes.
And did you guys attend what it wouldn't be church, it'd be a mosque.
A mosque.
A mosque
Yeah,
in
we
St.
did.
Petersburg.
We did, yes.
So you were able to, I'm sure, speak Arabic. That's where you would speak Arabic too, right? So your culture was still maintained.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Moroccans, we speak Darija, which is our Moroccan dialect.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to understand a lot of other Arab countries, and it's funny because you go Morocco, Algeria, they understand us. Tunisia, they understand us. Libya, a little less. Egypt, a little less. Each country you get over, it gets more towards the Middle East and more traditional Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
I always get jokes about that. They're like, "You don't speak Arabic." I'm like, "Well, I can read it, so I do speak it." But our Arabic is a dialect. It's a mix of a lot of Spanish words, a lot of French words from when we were colonized.
Interesting.
So that's what I speak at home. That's like if I call my brother, that's what we're speaking.
And what's it called again?
Darija.
Darija.
Yeah.
Darija.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a form of Arabic.
Yeah, it's a dialect.
It's a dialect of Arabic.
Yeah.
And so you're speaking Darija and then French. You know Darija and French. You know English and you know Spanish, don't you?
A little bit.
Like you can get around.
A little bit. Yeah, I can get by.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a gift that you have. that
Yeah.
you know these languages? Because most Americans don't.
All because of my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was. We'll get into that, but
So she kept it going when you were over in St. Petersburg, speaking Darija in the home, attending the mosque.
Yeah,
The culture was still there and
exactly.
rich.
Yeah.
Why did they move back to Morocco?
So one thing I wanted to say though
Yeah.
before that is the mosque was to learn how to read actual Arabic, traditional Arabic.
Okay.
So what's in the Quran, what's in the newspaper, all of that. It's not Darija, it's all traditional Arabic. So that was an effort to do that, and obviously to learn about our religion. And then the Darija was at home.
And so did you learn how to read and write it at that young of an age?
Not great. No, I was trying, but it was very difficult, and I learned it when I got to Morocco.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were also learning English because were you attending American school or Muslim school when you were in
American school, public school.
public school?
Yeah,
So you were learning English and the American culture,
exactly right.
and then at the same time maintaining your Moroccan culture.
Yep.
That's excellent. Why did they go back to Morocco?
My mom was going back to visit family, and on her way out, there was some visa issues. She overstayed her visa by like a day or a week or something like that, and they were like in the airport. They're like,
No.
"Get out."
No.
Yeah, so
So she got deported,
pretty
basically.
much with the flight to go home.
And she didn't know that with the paperwork and everything, probably,
I don't think
right?
she knew. Maybe she did. I'm pretty sure she didn't.
No, because I don't think she would have shown up like that. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
probably would have done something to take care of it before going to an airport
Yeah.
and having everything checked.
And she was going to Morocco pretty consistently. Our family
Yeah.
was coming to visit. I don't think it was ever their goal to stay here full time. My
Mhm.
mom is the biggest patriot ever. Like if I ever say anything that's a slight to Morocco, just sit down for 30 minutes because you're getting a lecture.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny.
Well,
But
was it your mom and dad and you and your brother in
Just
the
my mom.
airport?
it was my mom and maybe my aunt. I was at home. My brother was at home. My dad was at home. She was just going home to see some family.
And your aunt was visiting or lived?
My aunt, I believe it was my aunt Malika who lives here.
So was she living here when they moved here, or did she move after?
She moved here with us.
Oh, so she moved with you guys.
She moved here a couple years after us, but she lived with us.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the sisters basically were going back to Morocco to visit family, and that's when your mom essentially got deported.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the trauma for her. You and your brother are home, and she's being sent back to Morocco. Have you ever spoken to her about that situation?
Yeah, I have. She definitely resents the U.S. for that.
Yeah, it's understandable.
And I mean, listen, I always say there's rules and you got to follow the rules. You can't slip up on something like that, right? And that's my mom we're talking about, and something that dramatically changed my life. But
Yeah.
there's rules in place and there's a system in place, and you got to follow it, whether it was a mistake or an accident. Doesn't matter on paper because anyone could tell you, oh, I overstayed my visa here by a year because it was an accident. But yeah, it was tough. It was a very, very big pivotal moment in all of our lives. And she, understandably, from her perspective, resented the U.S. for it. My dad worked here, paid taxes, had a green card. We went to school. We were a good part of the community, etc. But
What year was that?
2006,
Okay.
So
May 2006.
you were what, 6?
I was 8.
8. So I assume she tells your dad, I'm being deported. And then did he basically have to sell his gas station? And so basically your life in America was completely altered from that moment. Your dad had to sell his gas station. You guys were pulled from school. We're moving back to Morocco.
So it was in May.
Okay.
And end of the school year,
Mhm.
right? So my dad's like, we're going to go visit family in Morocco. So we got over there and we're there for a couple months. And then one day my dad's like, we're going to go look at the school. And I was young. I was just happy to be there. My
Yeah.
brother, who's 4.5 years older than me, was like 12 and a half, 13. He was just finished 6th grade. So he
Ah,
knows the fuck's going on. He's like,
Mhm.
why am I looking at a school? I have a school at home.
He
Like
had
I have friends
friends.
at home. I'm on the football team at home, like etc. And I was just excited. I'm like, oh, we're in Morocco. I'm Moroccan. I love this. Um, and it was just I don't remember when they told us, but it was a while before we found out that we weren't going back.
So had he packed up all your stuff and sold your house in St. Petersburg? And did you guys not know all that was going on?
No. So when we left, our all of our shit was still there. And then like a few months, many months in the beginning of Morocco, we had a shipping container dropped on our front doorstep, like a full ass shipping container with our cars, our clothes, our furniture, everything.
Oh my
And that was
gosh.
like the point where I was like, oh, this is all my shit in the US, so I'm probably not going
That's
back.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
did all of this happen basically during that summer? And so by the time school started in Morocco, by then did you know, okay, we're staying here?
Before school started, my mom sat us down. She was like, listen, we're not going back.
So how did your brother react to that?
He was furious.
That's middle school.
Yeah.
No, that's like,
Yeah. You're
that's,
ruining my life.
yes.
I don't know if he said that, but he probably thought it.
In middle school, they say that if you take away,
If you ground them.
if you
Can't
ground
take away an
them, yeah,
Xbox.
you're ruined. If you take away their ice cream sandwich, you're ruining their life. So I'm sure he was like lost it.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that was like. That's amazing. What an adjustment. Now, when you think back on, you were young, but when you think back on that, is it feel fairly traumatic, or because you're so young, you're like, it's just what it was?
It's just what it was. It wasn't really traumatic at all. It was a very, very big change culturally, people, etc. But from what I remember from my family tells me, I was just happy. I
You were
was
happy
like,
to be
yeah,
there.
I'm with my family. We're in Morocco.
Yeah.
This is great. But then when I hit like puberty age, middle school, beginning of high school, that completely flipped.
Okay, so you move. Start second grade in Morocco?
Was supposed to start second grade. I got to Morocco. I took the test to get into school, and then they were like, "You're not second grade level. You should be in third grade." So I skipped the second grade.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you're third grade, but second grade age. Um, for those elementary school formative years, did they have sports or anything like?
Yeah.
Did you play like organized
Yeah.
sports? What did you play?
I played soccer, basketball, volleyball. Yeah, that's it. And track and field.
Okay.
So when I moved over there, I went to an American private school, and I had 15 kids in my grade,
In your grade?
in my entire grade. And those 15 kids I grew up with. So every year, plus or minus 2 to 5 people. Those were the kids that were in my grade my entire life in Morocco.
Wow.
So with that size of a school, we had our own conference where we played sports against other American schools. There was 2 others in Casablanca, one in Rabat, which is the capital, one in Marrakesh, which is a very big city, and then a couple others across the country. That's who we played sports against.
Were they expats or Moroccan citizens sending their kids to American schools?
It was everything. Expats, Moroccan citizens, Indians, Russians, Italians, literally everything.
Yeah.
Anybody that was in Morocco that wanted their kids to get an American education, learn English, were being sent there.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Was it mainly to learn English, or did you guys actually learn American history and stuff about America?
Everything.
Really?
Yeah.
So
American history, stuff about America. It was very similar to a curriculum at a school here, right? Very similar, except we would have an hour of French and an hour of Arabic every day throughout your whole career in school.
What about Moroccan history? Would you also still learn about Morocco?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture, though, how did you play organized sports? They must have blended ages. If you only had 15 in your grade.
That's exactly right. That's what I was trying to get at there is I'm not good at basketball. I'm decent at volleyball, but I'm actually pretty bad at basketball. I was on the basketball team because there was like 20 kids, right? You had a pulse. You can run. All right, get on the team.
Yeah.
So I played any sport that was open. Like the coaches would come up to you and be like, "We need you on the team." So that's why I was on all those teams. But
were there girl teams too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at this school, did the little girls just dress? Was it uniforms?
Uniforms, yeah.
Like how I'd picture Catholic school uniforms type of thing?
Right. White collared shirt or a light blue collared shirt with the school emblem on there, matching shorts or pants. And then a couple years in, they took away the collars and gave us the flexibility to be normal crew neck or collared. But
And not religious based, I assume.
no, we didn't learn. We didn't really study religion.
Okay.
My mom took care of that.
And then your brother then would have been in middle school.
Seventh grade.
Was
when we
his
got
grade
there.
also just as small?
Same thing.
That would have been such a hard adjustment as a middle schooler coming from an American middle school to then having your world get so small. Do you know, was it hard? I'm sure it was harder for him to adjust.
Yeah, it was. It was probably a big change. It was a big change for him, but he adapted very well. He's the best, most outgoing, social, nice. Everyone loves him. All his teachers loved him. All his friends loved him. So he just fit right in.
And he played sports too, I assume.
Yeah, he was. So he's not that big. He's pretty short. But my entire life he was incredible all sports. Like soccer to this day, incredible. Basketball by Moroccan standards, he was pretty damn good. Volleyball as well. So
Yeah.
he fit in pretty well.
So you guys are humming along in Morocco. Your dad opened up another business, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Was it a restaurant?
So he opened up a restaurant. He opened up one restaurant and then the second and then the third. And he would like have one or two open at a time. He usually would like sell them and kind of build up the brand, sell it, and then do that. And then his other business was he would go to China and he had a company that he did this with, but he would buy like everything you need to finish a house. So doors, door frames, showers, tubs, windows, everything, right? And he would buy them in China and ship them to Morocco and then sell them to people building houses in Morocco. So that was one of his businesses.
He's a hustler.
He is.
Wow.
He is, yeah.
Because he's running these businesses, and then I wonder where he got that idea. Just, okay, I'm going to go to China and wholesale all this stuff, basically, right?
He would sell anything. Like he would bring Hummers, Escalades,
that's
Honda
funny.
Goldwings, any car that wasn't available in Morocco. Like he would bring an Escalade, let's say it's $40,000 here, and sell it in Morocco for like $65,000 because
Wow.
it's like no one else can get it. He had like the first Escalade there, first Hummer there, and he would just be like, "All right, people want this. This will sell. I'll go get it and sell it."
So he's not just an entrepreneur, but a salesman.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it sounds like he's probably fairly well connected then, too,
Yes.
right? Because you probably can't do that in Morocco without connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So your family, I assume, have been considered wealthy in Morocco?
In Morocco, yes.
Yeah. And how did your dad adjust to being back in Morocco? Obviously fine business-wise, but was he okay with coming back to Morocco?
I'm not sure. I never noticed anything, but I can't imagine that he was. I mean, I'm sure he was upset with all the progress he made here in the U.S. and having to go back, but can't imagine it was too big of a change from him. I mean, he was probably in his 40s at that point in time. His whole life, other than maybe like 6 to 8 years, was in Morocco.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm sure your family was thrilled.
Yeah.
And their parents and all that, because then they have you guys there too, which
Exactly.
is wonderful. So how long were you in Morocco until you came back to the U.S.?
I was in Morocco from 2006 to 2014, so 8 years.
8 years. So you would have been
14 going on 15.
so right before high school?
So just finished sophomore year of high school, going into junior year.
Oh, wow.
Right, because you skipped a grade.
Yeah.
Okay, so your brother would have been going to college?
Yeah, my brother came here for college. He graduated the school in Morocco, the American school, and then came over here back to St. Pete, went to college there, and that's when everything flipped for me because I was just like, I don't want to be here. Why am I in Morocco? I should be in the U.S. I want to move back. Morocco sucks. I don't like it here, etc. Just going through puberty.
Well, and also probably you felt you had outgrown that space in
Exactly.
a way, especially if you were with those same kids still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to date after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and just everything gets so incestuous, and you're just like, I need change. I need to get out of here.
And my
Well,
brother
you're-
left.
That's what I
And
was
your
about to
brother
say.
left.
Your brother left. That he's like, you guys are obviously boys, I think, right?
Exactly.
You guys are tight. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was always me and him, and my cousins. And
Yeah.
when he left, I was just like, why am I still here?
So then what happened? What made the move back to America? What was the shift?
So my parents always knew that I was going to go. Me and my parents always knew that I was going to go to American college or
Mhm.
university, and no one was going to pay for an international tuition. So the plan was always to get back to the U.S. I'm an American citizen. I need a year or two to get in-state tuition.
Mhm.
So it was always sophomore or junior year I would go back. I was supposed to come back here my sophomore year, and my mom pulls me aside like going into that summer, and she's like, "This is really sad," but she's like, "I just can't lose you yet. Like you can't go over there and leave me. I need you to stay." Um, so me being the punk little kid I am, just held that over her head and threw a fit for an entire year until my going into my summer of my junior year. I was like, I'm fucking leaving. I don't want to be here any longer. And she tells me those stories, and I just get sad because I'm like, I was such a little shit. And
It's
now,
the
like, I would
age.
give everything to just be
Yeah,
with her and next to her. But
it's the age
yeah,
though.
it's
And
the
you know,
age and
it
the
really is
hormones, and
it
yeah,
is. It is. It's kind of the job, especially I think of young men. They want you want that autonomy. You're trying it's part of your job to become a man.
hmm,
So anybody who's going to stop you, whether it's your mom or whether it's the neighbor,
yeah,
God help them.
yeah.
So, but how could you come back here? Did you come back on your own?
I came back on my own. My aunt was still here, so my aunt never left.
Okay.
And my aunt's my mom's sister, so on my mom's side, she's my aunt. And my mom, they grew up together.
Yeah,
They're
she knew.
extremely close, so
Yeah.
she felt very comfortable sending me to live with her in St. Petersburg as well. She was actually like right down the street from my brother, so it worked out perfectly. She was also raising a kid, my cousin, who's 22 now, so a few years younger than me.
Mhm.
Um, so just, hey,
So
you're already raising
that
a kid.
yeah.
Would you mind helping out with this guy until he goes to college?
Yeah.
Yeah,
How did your brother come over here? Because you said about the international tuition. Was it not, did he not have to pay the international
he did
tuition?
at first. Yeah. So he has a green card. Now he has a passport. He's a citizen now. But he came over here first year, just paid international tuition. He went to a community college, and
Mm.
then he worked here, got a job, and then eventually became in-state a year or two in.
Okay. So
Yeah.
even with international, after a year or so, you can pay in-state tuition.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. It's not just domestically, but
Mhm.
internationally as well. So you finished high school. Did you go to the high school that you would have gone to if you stayed in St.
Yeah.
Petersburg?
Yeah.
S-
Public high school,
The same
the
one.
same one. Yeah.
Did you remember any kids from first grade?
No,
So how was it starting school as a junior?
it was insane. I went from the same 15 kids that I knew. I knew everything about them. I knew their parents. I knew where they lived. I knew their habits. I knew everything, to a school where the graduating class was 450 kids,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
the graduating
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
And it was just mayhem seeing how kids like were behaving, acting, just partying, doing whatever they want. It was a shock for sure.
I bet.
For sure.
And just did you get involved with sports?
Yeah. Yeah, I was captain of the soccer team.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
look at you sliding right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not the sport here, right? So all the best athletes play football or
Yeah.
basketball.
Right.
So in Morocco, it's the opposite. All the best athletes play soccer. So I was upper middle of the pack in Morocco. And when I came here, I was top of the pack
Yeah.
because people don't focus as much on soccer here. So it was a little bit of an easy
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you have a car? You got a license here?
I got a
And
license. I didn't have a car.
so you weren't out on the streets yet
No.
driving around or anything.
No, I was young for my age, so I didn't get my license until I was 16. Or yeah, end of being 16, right? So
Okay.
I got here when I was 15, and then I figured out that to get it at 16, you had to have your learner's permit. So when I
Right.
turned 16, I got my learner's permit.
Okay. So
So
then close to
close
17.
to 17, I got my license the day of my senior year prom.
Oh, you got your license
Yeah,
that day.
that day. And I drove, my dad had moved there like 4 months ago.
4 months before
4 months
that?
before, yeah. And I drove his car, and then I would drive my brother's car around. I had a little scooter that I would take to school, but no, I didn't own a car.
So when you moved here, did the skipping a grade hold?
Hmm.
So you were always younger
Hmm.
than everyone in your grade.
Yeah.
And in America, that can make a difference.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever feel younger?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I got to Florida State, the first 4 months of me being by myself living in Florida State, I was 17.
Yeah.
That's pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you, well, to go back, you said your dad moved to America 4 months before your senior prom. What prompted him to make that move?
He just had some stuff going on. I'm in Morocco, and then him and my mom kind of parted ways, and I think he just didn't have anything else to do there, so he just came back over here.
Did they get divorced?
No,
So they're still
they're
married.
separated.
They're
Yeah,
separated. So she stayed in Morocco and he moved to St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg. Yeah,
Um, and then were you essentially, did he move with your aunt or did he get his own place?
he moved in with my aunt for probably 2 weeks while he found a spot, and then I moved in with him.
And then you moved in
Yeah.
with him. So that was that the first time you had seen him since you had moved to America?
No, I would go back there in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So you still were seeing them.
Yeah.
But it's probably nice to have your dad
100%.
over here in America,
Yeah.
right?
And it was very interesting dynamic because it was the traditional family style, right? I'm at home with my mom. My mom knows every single detail and aspect of my life. And then my dad's at work all day. He comes home at night. Hey son, how's your day? How are sports? Let's watch the soccer game, etc. And then going from that to him being in every detail of my life, I was like, this is really weird.
Yeah, it changed your guys' relationship, right?
Very much so, yeah.
I'm sure you became a lot closer.
Mhm.
So you graduate, and was Florida State always your number one?
Florida State was my number one. Yeah, so I applied for early admission to Florida State. I was in the middle of applying to the rest of the schools I wanted to go to. I got into Florida State early admission in October, and I didn't apply anywhere else.
Okay, that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
Was Florida State your target even in Morocco, or was
No,
it just when you
when I
moved
got
here?
here, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really know much about Florida State when I was in Morocco.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So did you did the summer C?
No, I went in fall.
Oh, you did fall.
Yeah,
Okay, so when you started in the fall, then had you spent any time in
no,
Tallahassee?
no. It was funny. My brother drove me up for orientation, and he drops me off on the side of the street. He goes, "Have fun, kid." Drives back home with his buddy. His buddy came up with us so he wouldn't drive back alone, and that's it. My dad never came up to Tallahassee.
Really?
My brother came up one time. After that, it was literally just me. They were like, "Go, have
Wow.
fun." Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you're in the dorms, I assume.
No, I had an apartment.
You had an apartment,
Yeah.
but you were at FSU.
I was at FSU. I was an FSU student.
But you didn't, did you not want to live in the dorms? I thought you had to as a freshman.
You didn't.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No.
What made you make that decision?
Cost comparison versus compared to what I was getting.
Okay.
Apartment was cheaper, and I had my own room. I had my friend from St. Petersburg that I was moving up with, and he didn't get into Florida State. He was in TCC,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to live together, right?
Mm.
And so I was like, "Dad, is it cool if I get an apartment?" He's like, "Yeah, do whatever you want."
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So
And just to go back, you were only 17.
I was only 17.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
17, living in an apartment.
Yeah.
You had never lived on your own before like that,
No.
right? Paying bills,
Yeah.
taking care of all that stuff away from your mom.
Yeah.
And
But I would say the experience of moving here and just living with my aunt. My aunt worked a lot because she was a single mom here raising a kid by herself. So I got a lot of that experience in junior, senior year of high school, where I would take myself to and from school, take myself to and from all my practices, had a job when I was 15, just figuring everything out, right?
what
Like,
was your job?
my first job was a cabana boy at the Serrata Beach Resort in St. Petersburg.
Nice.
So I would set up these cabanas for people that are staying at the hotel, get in at like 6 a.m., have everything set up by that time. And then they needed a drink or anything, I'd get the waiter, etc. I was just kind of the helper boy at the
Yeah.
cabana area.
Yeah.
And then same hotel, around 6 months in, I got brought into their restaurant. I was a food runner, and then I became a bar back. And yeah, that's the job.
And that
I
was
had
through
when I
high
left.
school.
Through high school, yeah.
And then I assume also living with your aunt, were you making a lot of your own meals, breakfast, lunch?
No,
So your meals were still made for you.
she had that down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at Tallahassee, that was your first time managing your food on
Yep.
your own,
Yeah.
grocery shopping,
Yeah.
all that.
All
And I
that
know
stuff.
you like to cook,
I
right?
do.
Now,
Yeah.
had you always liked to cook, or did that come in Tallahassee when you were on your own?
I didn't always like to cook, but I always watched my mom cook. My mom is 10 out of 10 incredible chef, just like you are.
Oh,
And I would always watch her make stuff, right?
yeah.
And I don't know if I learned necessarily watching her, but I got a feel for it. And then I would just call her. I'm like, hey, I want to make this. And she would just send me a voice recording. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. Here's how long. And that's just kind of how I got into it. And then, yeah, I figured out that it's easy. It's
It
really
is.
not that hard.
It's
People
not.
act like it's very difficult. It's very easy.
Yeah.
There's levels to it, of course, right?
But it really,
But it's not that hard.
what's the saying? There's this TikToker, he always says, it isn't easy, but it is simple. And I think with cooking, once you get, if you can follow a recipe, it is simple. And once you get the hang of things, it does become easy.
Yeah,
But at first it can feel intimidating where this is too hard, it's too much. But if you really think about it, it is simple. It's just following steps.
exactly.
It's just measuring and following steps.
I have a question there.
Yeah.
She measures. Do you measure?
No.
Are you? Yeah, okay. I'm not a measurer
I'm
either.
not a measure. I eyeball.
Totally. Yeah. Okay.
I can't. I'll eyeball things like olive oil or stuff, but I can't with seasoning. I'm too nervous. I'm going to ruin the whole dish by putting too much of something in.
Yeah, no, I just
So
I'm
and
an
that's
eyeballer.
I'm an eyeballer.
Yeah.
And that's funny because when I lived with Nate, I was trying to like show him a couple things on how to do things, and he's like, "Well, how do you know how much
Yeah.
of this to put in there?" I'm like, "You should just
Yeah,
guess."
It'll work
I
out.
don't know.
it's made with love. That's
Yeah.
what I always say. Like
Yeah.
it's just this much love and that much love.
Exactly
But I
right.
measure my love because especially with salt, I'm always so nervous I'm going to oversalt something. So, okay. So Tallahassee was where your love of cooking was born, really?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I mean, you had been observing your mom and through osmosis absorbing the vibe of cooking.
yeah,
Because even if it is simple or easy, there's still something about cooking. There has to be an emotion tied to it. I think like
yeah,
you are an intention when you're making it, and I think that's what makes it whatever your dish you're making makes it good because there's that enjoyment while you're doing it.
yeah.
I mean, not always. I have a whole short that went viral about complaining about making dinner every night. But in general, when you're making something, and then you see how it turns out and all that.
Well,
So,
Especially when
making-
you're making for someone else.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, making dinner is different than making a meal, right? Making dinner can be mac and cheese, maybe mashed potatoes.
Those are sides.
But when
yeah.
you jump into like one of your Armenian dishes and you've got
Oh,
the
yeah.
pilaf and the dolma
Yeah.
and the hummus, and that's
Yeah.
a meal.
I made meals for 30 years. and
I've
then
had
I
a lot
hit a
of them.
point.
They've all been really good.
Thank you. And then I did hit a point where I was like, you know what? I need a break from this. I don't want to I was cooking Sunday through Thursday. And I just was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But I mean, I'm 54. So it was time I'll still cook, but I like to have the freedom to say I'm not cooking tonight.
Yeah.
Where for 30 years, I didn't have, I put that on myself, like making for the family. No one made me. But I gave myself the permission to say, we're doing takeout tonight. And
Yeah.
I never had before. I was like, no, that's only Friday or Saturday. But now it's a little more loose. But when I do cook now, I really, really enjoy it because I don't do it as much as I used to.
Is that a thing in Morocco, like to order food in?
Depends on your family. My family, not at all.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so.
No.
No. Yeah, I could see
My
your
mom made everything. Like literally anything you wanted, she would make it. Whether it was like sweets and pastries or
Oh, that's cool.
meals or breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything. I never ate school lunch.
Yeah.
I would take home or I take a lunch to school with me. And funny stories. I would take home or I would take a lunch to school and I would get kids to trade me 2 or 3 school lunches in
That's
exchange for the lunch I brought.
That's funny.
Yeah, like my friends would come up to me, and I always had a lunchbox when I was a kid, and they'd be like, "What's in there?" And I'd be like, "It's the pasta." And they're like, "No, not the pasta." And they would actually like come together, get 3 kids, and be like, "All right, we're all gonna give him our food, and we're gonna get his food." Like, all right, sure.
So you're getting like the American meal from their hot lunch, and then
Yeah.
you guys are exchanging cultures almost, right?
Yeah.
Because were the meals at the American school like probably what kids here were getting?
Very similar. There was an actual chef, right? So it was better food, I would say.
Right,
but
right.
there would be burgers a days. Sometimes they would have like just all kinds of like food that you'd get at a
Yeah.
school lunch here, some pizzas, things like that. Every once in a while, they throw in something Moroccan.
Mhm.
So it was a mix.
Did your
What-
mom know?
She did. She found it hilarious. Yeah.
What's your mom's stance on leftovers? or is it a clean slate the next day?
No, big leftover family.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Perfect.
Especially like pasta, things like that. Big leftover.
Well, she's
Yeah.
probably making whatever she's making a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
So there's bound
And
to
I
be
bet
leftovers.
I bet it tastes better the next day. It tastes good that first day, but like her dolma the next day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think I know what I'm making for Father's Day.
No kidding.
I think I
Yeah.
always make that on Father's Day for
Actually,
you.
she makes these those spinach whatever.
Quesadillas.
Man, those are so.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you have to pick. I'm not doing both. Okay, so you're in Tally. You're living in an apartment. You're on your own. You're cooking. You're doing all the things. What did you declare a major right from the start?
Yeah, I went up there as an engineering major.
Wow.
Yeah, filled out of that real quick.
Okay, so how long did that?
That did not work out.
How long did that last?
A year, maybe a year and a half.
Oh, that's a long time.
No, a year and a half. Yeah. So the fall of my sophomore year, I switched majors, not by choice necessarily. I just didn't have the grades. And yeah, joining a fraternity didn't help. I wasn't taking it seriously. Honestly, I was very immature still, even though I thought I was more mature than a lot of kids my age. But from like thinking of me getting the Florida State in order to build my future and actually get a degree for something that I want to do and will use, that hadn't clicked, unfortunately. So I was just viewed class as like, I'll go to class sometimes or things like that. And then sophomore year, that changed. And I was like, all right, I need to do something with my life. So we can't get kicked out of school and we have to like build a career and future for ourselves. So yeah.
Okay. So what did you switch to?
I switched to economics with a minor in entrepreneurship.
So are you good at math?
Pretty good at math.
Is that your strength?
That was my strength growing up. Yeah. That's why I chose engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you graduate with an economic degree?
From Florida State, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you have a minor? Did you say
entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So you graduated with that. Did you join a frat freshman year?
Freshman year. Yeah, freshman year in the spring.
Were you part of Nathan and Ben's pledge class?
No. I was
the next one probably then.
Three after them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was a year after them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you choose the frat you chose?
My random roommate was a Kappa Sig.
Okay.
So we had 4 kids living in that apartment. And my roommate was a Kappa Sig. So when I lived with him, he was already in the fraternity. He was already had an established friend group, etc. And fall went by. I had gone to Kappa Sig twice, I believe, just for game days, tailgates, things like that. And then spring came around and they're doing rush, right? So first day of rush, he comes home, how'd it go? Great, etc. Second day of rush, he comes home and he just flings the door open. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting on the couch with a couple of my buddies. And he looks at me and he goes, "So this is your college experience?" He's like, "This is what you're going to do? You're just going to sit on the fucking couch every day and just watch TV and not do shit with your college experience?" He's like, "You need to get up and do something." He's like, "I'm taking you to rush tomorrow." And I was 18. I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. And I went in and that was the only frat I went to. Got a bid and joined the fraternity.
So that wasn't your plan to be in a frat?
Never.
Was there a reason behind that?
I never thought of it.
It just wasn't on your radar.
No.
Wow, what a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
To have your roommate do that for you.
Literally life-changing.
Yeah. So you got into Kappa Sig. So you're a grade behind Nathan, but 2 years younger, right?
Yeah.
Because you hopped grades. Okay. What was your first impression of the frat?
I don't even know if I remember. I don't know. The house was intimidating because it was a massive mansion with a bunch of dudes standing out there in suits. It was very weird. It's like you're going in there. Excuse me. It's like you're going in there trying to flirt with a bunch of guys to tell them that you're cool and you guys should take a chance on me. So that was very weird, and I didn't know what I was doing. Right? Like I just went in there and I was like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I am.
Well, you'd only been back in America for 2 years, right? 2.5?
2.5 years, yeah.
So you had acclimated back in, but still, that's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
And is Greek life a thing in Morocco?
No.
So it's such an American experience. And it's probably not like you research, like did a ton of it wasn't even on your radar.
My understanding of Greek life came from watching movies like American Pie and like
Yeah.
Road Trip, things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that,
Did
where
you
you
ever
see
see
all the
Animal House?
baby. I don't
'Cause
know.
that reminds me of Kappa Sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair
that's
enough.
You should
totally.
watch that
Fair
movie.
enough.
Yeah, so you were going in like probably wide-eyed.
Yeah, very much so.
And I mean, I think that's a testament to you because a lot of people go in there, go into these processes um trying really hard. And the fact that you were you had no choice but to be your authentic self because you didn't know what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
So they accepted you for truly who you are.
yeah,
So
and
that's kind of cool.
yeah, it's very interesting because like the cultures are different. Like kids in high school, junior, senior year, a lot of them are working out. A lot of them are like playing football, things like that. Like that's the culture. And then I come in, I'm 150 pounds soaking wet. I don't never been in the gym, nothing like that, right? So the kind of things that they looked for in the fraternity kind of scoping phase, I didn't really have. Like I wasn't jacked.
Hmm.
Didn't have like a bunch of stories about a bunch of girls. Like I had some, but nothing like crazy. So it was literally just me and they're like, I don't know what the fuck to talk about, but
Yeah.
I just moved here from Morocco. Here's what I am. Here's what I do. And having my roommate being Kappa Sig probably helped.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of how it played out.
And then you had mentioned earlier they helped you guys with your cleaning up your social media. Did they how would you say Kappa Sig set you up and help prepare you for life after college?
There was a lot of stuff that was very, very just turning boys to men.
Hmm.
Like you have all the partying and you have all the actual brotherhood and like stuff like that, but there was a lot of stuff there. Like they wanted you to take your school seriously. Now whether they preached or they did what they preached, that's a different thing, but um making sure like they know to teach you not to drink and drive, not to like black out at the bar because you're embarrassing yourself and the fraternity, how to dress, how to like make a tie, for example. When you're standing up, your suit should be buttoned. When you're sitting down, your suit should be open. Don't be a creep to women. Um, just things that are really important
Yeah.
for guys to learn. And it's not like it was. I don't want to say it was coming from like a like trying to like mature you, but it was more like we have a brand, we have a name. This is how real men treat themselves and how they present themselves. You need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Um, I always got the impression, and again, I'm just a mom that went there just a couple times, but and I could be wrong, but I felt that Kappa Sig was a really authentic frat
Yeah.
and like real and wasn't trying as much to put on some sort of illusion, I guess, if that makes sense, but just
It was more regular guys than
That's
it was
exactly right.
right,
Facade.
Yeah.
That would be my experience as well.
more down to earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. It definitely was. And I mean, we weren't the coolest frat on campus. We weren't getting the most girls. We weren't the most popular by any means, but just a bunch of guys that cared for each other.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it was. And it was just normal, just some normal dudes.
Well, when I was there for a party, there were a lot of girls there. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, it was a rager. So, and you guys were on sorority row.
Yeah.
So nice. But, and right across from, I think, Potts or
Yep.
what, right?
Across from Onyx, Potts,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Zeta,
location, you can't beat the
no,
location of Kappa Sig.
not at all.
There's nothing better than that. But it seemed like it was pumping. But what you're saying as far as the brotherhood, it feels like the fact that you guys were all able to be yourselves, then you were able to truly bond together because it was all real. Would you
Mhm.
say that's accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like the early it's an interesting kind of pledgeship because the early parts it's all of the cookie cutter stuff, if you will, like the stuff I just talked to you about. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is what's important, this is what you need to do, this is how you dress, this is how you act. Don't get too drunk at the bar, don't black out, don't drive if you're drinking. You can't get in fights with your brothers, just shit like that. And then as they weeded out a lot of the kids, that's where it kind of funneled down into more fraternity, brotherhood, actual events where they're trying to teach you, they're trying to put everyone else in the fraternity against you so that you and your pledge class bond together. And
Mm.
there's a lot of experiences that they put you through where you're like, all we have is each other as the pledge class. No one else here likes us. I don't
Mm.
even know how we're going to be these guys' brothers because they all hate us.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the facade they put on.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns you close to each other.
Mm.
And that's like my experience with my pledge class. Like, I'm the only one that had an apartment at that point, and I would have, after any event, 13, 14 dudes on my couch and on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
just debriefing and talking, watching shows and just talking shit, right?
And is this during Rush you're talking about?
This is during pledgeship, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then once you're in, then I assume all that stops and you guys are one brotherhood,
Yeah,
right?
and it's a mind fuck. It's like, I thought you hated me.
Yeah.
What the fuck has been going on? And they're like, no, that's just how it is. And then you're a brother, and the new pledge class comes in, and it's the same.
And you
rinse
have
and
to do
repeat.
it,
Yeah,
do the same. So, I mean, I don't know anything about that. What is it? 8 weeks, 9 weeks of pledging,
depends who you ask.
but it's a long time. I feel like it's most of that fall semester.
It's most of the semester.
And I don't want to know everything that goes on as a mother, but I can only imagine there's some times that it's fairly traumatic or you're not sure if you're going to make it. I assume that's the job of the brothers. So it must be such a euphoric feeling when you do.
Yeah, 100%. It's a journey, and it's at certain points you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I here? I already had friends. I enjoy what I was doing before. Like, what is this?
Right.
But there's just so many guys in there with you. They're like, really, you're gonna quit? We're in this together, and it's just set up in a very, very interesting, like, unique way that you just have each other's backs, and you don't let it's like, you ever get in, like, someone starts being really negative, and then automatically you start being more positive, and then in a
Mhm.
different conversation it flips.
Mhm.
That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Like, someone's like, I can't fucking do this anymore. He's like, dude, relax.
You know what's interesting is Nathan tells us a lot, right? He's shared a lot of stuff with us over the years. If you go in too deep on that pledge experience, he doesn't share it with us.
Yeah.
And that's probably the code you guys have
Exactly
with
right.
the
Yeah.
fraternity. So it's like, that's untouchable. Can't
And
really
we
learn too much.
respect that. We don't.
Yeah,
we
don't
don't
pry.
push. We don't pry.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now we're grown men.
Yeah.
I still don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I
if someone
think-
asks me, I'm not giving them the full picture.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like you still owe something to the fraternity and to, like, the group itself, where you're like, I'm not gonna say what happened or
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
did or anything like that.
Well, I mean, aren't you a brother for life once you're a brother?
For life.
You know. And would you say you're still very close to majority of your brothers?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I talk to Nathan almost every day. Mac, Ben, Jesus, Spencer, Evan. It's a very big group, and we're very blessed to have each other. But we talk almost every day.
Yeah.
If I travel, that's who I travel with. I've made a lot of friends at Florida State outside of the fraternity, like my roommate that I live with now, Juan, and a lot of our friends down there. But it's real. You definitely stay together forever. It's gonna be the guys at my wedding, hopefully at my funeral.
Yeah. Well, you do life together afterwards.
Exactly
I
right.
think that was the gift that Kappa Sig gave to all of you.
Do you know if other frats from FSU, if they're as tight as you guys are? Because you guys are tight. It's
Yeah.
cool to see from our perspective. But are the other frats as tight?
A lot of them are.
Okay.
A lot of them are. A lot of them don't have as big of a group as we do that
Mhm.
stay tight. But, like, a lot of my friends in Miami, they were all in the same fraternity. Granted, a lot of them knew each other from Miami before they went up to Florida State,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're still tight. A lot of fraternities are like that. That remains so, like, once you get to junior, senior year of college, you realize you're like, oh, there's a ton of other people out here that I could meet. I shouldn't just stay in my fraternity. And you make a ton of other friends,
Mhm.
especially like working nightlife, things like that. But the primary group always remains that fraternity.
That's your
It's
core
very
group.
interesting.
Okay, so you're studying economics. You're in Kappa Sig. Did you work at all?
Yeah, I did. What was my first job there? My first job was a bar back at Baja's.
That's a bar in
That's
Tally.
a nightclub.
Nightclub in
Tallahassee.
Tally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mac, our friend Mac got me that job. He used to bartend at one of the sister locations. So I started bar back in there. And then I had a kitchen boy job at Zeta when I joined the fraternity.
That's a sorority, right?
Sorority, yeah.
So what would you do?
I would clean the dishes, bring out the food, change out the food, dishes, clean the kitchen. Um,
And they paid you.
and they paid me, and they sent me home with like enough food to feed me and the fraternity.
Was this the sorority right across the street from you
Yep.
guys? Oh, that's convenient.
Very convenient.
So was it just for their events, or was it for every time they had meals?
Every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So it's common. Every sorority has their kitchen boys, and they'll bring out the food, serve it, clean, make sure the kitchen's clean when they leave, etc. And it paid, I don't know, like $10 an hour.
Yeah, but how
But
convenient is that?
yeah, it's
And food.
and food, and you get to meet some girls.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's the extra bonus.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that?
2 years, and then I got promoted. So I was a bar back, and then the bar owner, Zen and Simon, they opened a second bar. So I was a bar back there as well. So I had kind of two jobs, and then the kitchen boy job. And then I got promoted to a bartender at both of those places. And I was college rich, so I just quit the kitchen boy job. I had had enough of it. The house mom was
Yeah.
crazy. Wonder if she's still alive. But
So you were working a lot.
yeah, I was. So my freshman year, spring break, we're down in Fort Lauderdale, and my dad didn't want me to go to Florida State. He wanted me to live with him and go to St. Pete College like my brother. But he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I'm not paying for your shit anymore. Come home, and I'll pay for your shit." Right?
So this was freshman year at FSU spring break. He's like, I don't want you up there.
Yeah.
If you come home and go to school here, I'll pay for
Yeah,
everything.
it was sophomore year actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like, "Come home. We're not doing this anymore," because he was supporting me, sending me money for everything. Um, and I was like, "No, I'm not leaving. I've made friends here. I like it here. I don't like St. Pete. All my friends from high school in St. Pete weren't doing anything with their lives, so I was just like, I'll fucking figure it out."
So
Did he at least pay tuition, or was
He
it
did
your
up until
cutoff?
that point.
Oh, up to that, so
Yeah.
you're good. Then all of a sudden he's like, "I want you to come home. If not, you're on your own." And that meant tuition, room, board, the whole thing.
Food.
did something happen to trigger that reaction?
So he never wanted me to go. And my brother, being the great brother that he is, literally just sat him down and goes, "This kid has to go get his own college experience and live by himself and grow up. You need to let him to go to Florida State. It's not that expensive, tuition wise. Like my
Yeah.
tuition was like $3,000 a semester.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
In
Crazy.
tuition wise, in state, Florida's the deal.
yeah,
Really is.
incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Incredible. But yeah, so my brother convinced him, and I think my dad just got to a point where he's like, "I don't see this kid. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He can come home and go to school here. There's schools here, and I'll pay for your stuff then."
So he just got nervous, it sounds like, about
No
something.
idea.
He just wanted you home.
No idea. He just wanted me home, and I was a young college kid that didn't ask why. I was just like, no.
And so then you had to figure out how to pay for tuition, room, and board.
Yeah.
And were you living in the frat or in an apartment?
I was living in an apartment, and this was right before I started working all these jobs, and I got evicted because I couldn't pay rent.
Oh my goodness.
So I moved into my buddy Squawk's room in the fraternity. They literally,
Squawk.
yeah, Squawk.
Yeah.
They literally took me in, and I literally just slept on his couch for like a whole summer,
And then now we're going into junior year.
now we're going into no, we're going into sophomore year. I don't know why I mixed that up. It was
So it was
Yeah.
freshman year.
it was
So
freshman
your
year,
dad kind of gave it that time, but then he
Yeah.
realized I can't
the
do
first
this.
year. Yeah,
So you supported yourself through 3 years of Florida State,
3.5.
3.5 years
Yeah, I
of
did an
Florida
extra
State.
semester my senior year.
So for sophomore year, where did you live?
Sophomore year is when I moved into the fraternity house.
Okay.
So rent was $500 a month,
Yeah.
Okay.
450.
And you were working these 3 jobs basically
Yeah.
for sophomore year, and in a frat, and studying economics and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
And then you ended up making enough bar backing that you could quit working at the sorority.
No, I didn't quit working at the sorority till I got promoted to a bartender.
Okay.
And we were making for college comparatively to rent, what you spend on food, on alcohol, if you were to go out, etc. Like, I was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
It was like maybe $1,500 a weekend.
Oh, wow.
But back then,
That's good
like,
change.
No,
it was a lot of
that's
change.
a lot.
Yeah.
Your rent's $500,
Yeah.
right? And we're eating Chipotle and Chick-fil-A every day,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm cooking at home. And being in the nightlife scene, you're not paying to get into any of the bars. You're not paying for drinks.
Mhm.
So we were college rich.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's more than enough to cover your tuition,
by far. Yeah.
everything.
And I got financial aid.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's impressive, though, that you pulled that off.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Honestly, like, because you hustled until you got to a stage where a job that you could quit the other jobs, but
Mhm.
you did what you needed to do, and you still were able to fulfill your commitments as a brother with Kappa Sig, and still make grades and graduate
Mhm.
with your degree. I mean, have you recognized how hard you worked and balanced during that time yet in your life?
I don't think about it often. It's kind of just like it's always been you got to do what you got to do, right? Like we're not just gonna lay down and fail or take it. Like these are the circumstances. What needs to be done to get through them, and you just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I've
want
always known you as a hustler.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I remember you hustling in college. I think you're probably hustling now. I know we'll probably get there a little bit, but yeah,
Well, and your
For sure.
dad
It's
is
good,
a good
man.
example of that. You've grown
Yeah.
up with a great model of that. And plus the life experiences you went through, suddenly moving from America back to Morocco and then you've been placed in situations where I got to figure this out. I have to adjust to this. So you had already practiced that throughout your childhood, and then you were able, I think that benefited you when things hit you at FSU.
I think so because I was a mama's boy growing up, not even by choice. Like my mom was just so in my shit. Like my mom knew everything I was doing, always what I was doing. She made my schedule, etc. When I was in middle school and early high school, which looking back at it, I'm so thankful for.
Yeah.
She's the reason I learned the languages I know. She's the reason I played sports out of school. Like this woman would just go above and beyond to make sure I was filling my time, learning, doing, like, God bless her.
Yeah.
But having her removed from the picture junior year of high school, it's just like, all right, you got to start growing up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like my aunt has her own kid and a job. Like she's not looking after
Yeah.
every single detail. So I think that played a big role. And by the time I got to Tallahassee, I was alone, but it's been like it's kind of been like this for a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think you're right. That huge adjustment because I'm that type of mom. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm just picturing if like Nathan had gone through that where all of a sudden I wasn't in his life and the huge adjustment he would have had to make at that time. So I understand what you're talking about when you're saying that. So the growth that had to have come during that time is indescribable and was preparing you, I think, for what happened at Florida State.
Yep.
Because then when that was laid out for you, you didn't hesitate. You're like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then you did.
I had no
So-
idea how I was gonna do it, but
you figured
I
it
was
out.
like, I'll figure it out.
You figured it
Yeah.
out.
It feels like though that background you just described is what gave you the strength, perseverance, perspective
Mhm.
to get up every day and go take care of your shit.
Yeah,
Right?
I would think so, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong background, family background.
So if you had to pick one of your best memories from your time up in Tallahassee, what would that be? It doesn't have to be the best memory, but one of them.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. Joining the frat was great. Getting promoted to a bartender was great. I don't know. It'd have to be a lot of the trips we took. As you guys know, we went to a lot of music festivals. We traveled a lot. So that was always some of the best times we've ever had when you'd be at a music festival and you look around and there's like 20 of your best friends all there together. Like Okeechobee, that always comes up as one of the best times. Just having everyone there, everyone's happy, everyone's safe. I would say those are probably the best moments. Either trips or our ways of taking trips back then were music festivals.
Yeah.
So I would say it was probably the music festivals when you had everyone together. I'd say one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely the first Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's the one that sticks out always.
I remember hearing things about that from Nathan,
Yeah.
and I know that all of those are such cherished memories for him,
Yeah,
and then later for Kaya, 'cause
exactly.
she was brought into the
Yeah.
mix, So that's wonderful. So when you graduated, did you already have a plan of where you were going and what you were doing?
I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going. I graduated, and me and Nate were close at that point, and he's like, "Hey, I work at this company, Granite. They're hiring. You need a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I do, and I need somewhere to move." So that's a prime example of the fraternity changing everything. And I know we've talked about the fraternity a lot, but it really was a pivotal thing in my life because I met Nate through the fraternity. He's my best friend, brother till this day. Um, he got me my first job out of college. I learned how to work like a office job there, learned good habits, etc. And that set me up for where I'm at now.
And where did you live when you first got out of school?
I got out of school. I went home to Tampa, St. Pete, where my dad was at while I applied the for Granite, where Nate worked,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got hired and moved down. Me and Nate moved in together.
And that was down here in South Florida.
Yeah, in in Boynton.
Boynton. Now,
Yeah.
did your dad go to graduation?
We didn't have a graduation. It was COVID.
You were part of the COVID
Mhm.
graduation.
Yeah. Yeah. He went to my high school graduation, of course.
Yeah.
Cried so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen him cry
The
two
big
times.
softy.
2 times. My brother's graduation and my graduation.
That's cool.
I
Uh,
still think about all you kids that didn't get graduations and the high schoolers that didn't get prom, and my heart just breaks
Yeah.
because you can't go back and get that.
Nope.
So now I'm sure your mom, though, is very proud and thrilled for you with graduating from F. Was she okay with Florida State?
She's like, go.
She was
was
good.
not okay with me changing majors.
Mm.
But yeah, she was like, if your dad can afford it, if you guys can figure it out, wherever you need to go, you just need to get an education.
Yeah.
And my mom she's like, why are you not getting your master's degree? Why are you not getting this? You need to be getting educated more. So any way I can make myself better, my mom's all for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your biggest cheerleader.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're living in South Florida. You're working your first job, and your first office job, as you
Mhm.
said. So what was your impression of the corporate world?
This is fucking terrible. Like, my first company was the most boring, terrible company. I was working with the most bland people. Nothing was good about it. Like, if Nathan wasn't there as my roommate and my coworker, I probably would have lost my mind. Like, I didn't like the people I worked with. I sold phone, and as a salesperson, my job was to sell phone and internet lines to businesses, right? From T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, etc. And we had the discounted business rates. So you're calling like CFOs, CIOs, executives, IT people, etc. And you're like, hey, I can save you money on your phone and internet. And their response is, I set up my phone and internet when we started this company, and my goal was to never think about this ever again. I don't want to talk to you. There's nothing to be spoken. My phone
Very
bills,
tough sale, right?
Yeah, my phone bill's $1,500. You're gonna save me $500. I think we're good.
That sounds like a lot of a savings, though. $500.
Pain in the ass, though.
It's a pain in the ass to switch, and it could fail.
Mm.
There's risk associated, yeah, but it just wasn't.
A lot of rejection.
A lot of rejection. I wasn't excited about what I was doing. It was boring.
Would you say you learned anything, though, from all that cold calling?
Absolutely. One thing you can't dismiss about that company is their training. They had something called Granite University, where they taught you a lot about their solutions, a lot about how to position them, how to sell. And being at a company that's way bigger and way better funded and is public, like all these things, they don't have that. And the amount they invested in their people is something that I definitely still appreciate to this day.
So it's almost like a little bit of an extension of your education.
For my career, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that you took with you.
Yeah.
So I always say those first jobs, even though they suck, there's something you invariably take with you, and there's parts of it that you always continue to benefit from through the rest of your careers. You just don't realize it until you're away from it.
Absolutely.
Like I've always told Nathan, it's like you start in phone sales. It's sort of a rite of passage in many ways for bigger and better sales jobs. Because if you can handle the rejection and the repetitiveness, the redundancy, the call, you learn the gift of gab. You get somebody to hold on and talk to you for 30 seconds instead of go fuck yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it's a great lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
And you
experience.
also get to figure out what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's just as important.
Yeah.
So how long were you there?
A year, 12 months.
And then what happened?
And then I went to the company I'm at today, SAP. So I met someone on my friend Madison was having her birthday. We rented out a boat in Miami and we're out on the water having fun. I meet this guy and he's like, "What are you doing for work?" I'm like, "I work at this company. I fucking hate it." And he's like, "Well, I work at this global software company. We're hiring right now." Literally just met this guy. He's like, "I'll refer you if you want." Referred me, got the interview, got the job, or they were about to make me the job offer, and they're like, "Well, you have to move to Boston for
Mm,
this job." I was like, "All right, fuck it." Looked
yeah.
up the company, learned about it, how big they are, how they're the number one in the space they're in, number one company in the space that they're in, and yeah, just took the risk, got the job.
So you moved to Boston.
Yep,
And how long were you up there?
13 months.
And how, because you're coming from Morocco and then Florida.
Yeah,
I assume this is the coldest place you've lived, Boston.
absolutely.
So how was it a bit of a culture shock? How was Boston for you?
It was not great. I didn't like Boston. I didn't like the people. I didn't like the weather. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but that's not the place for me at all.
So what parts of it weren't a fit?
The people, um,
In what way?
very snotty, kind of like entitled people. Obviously, there's plenty of great people that I met up there that are still friends to this day. So it's not everyone from Boston is that, but it's just there's no like I didn't what they do on a day to day, what their activities were, their interests just didn't align with me. They had their sports teams and they had their underground bars that they would drink at. All the
Mm.
people I met, and that was
Not
pretty
a lot
much
of
it.
joy there, right?
Not at
They're
all.
not the happiest people.
They're not the happy. I like being outside. I like doing
Yeah.
shit. There was none of that. It was just all drinking and sports.
Yeah.
Do they not have outdoor activities?
They do. They do.
Okay.
And me and my roommate, who was a blessing that I lived with him, that's all we would do when it wasn't
Okay.
winter. They had a beach there we would go to all the time, a beautiful park called the Commons right in the middle of Boston. The city's absolutely beautiful.
And the history.
The history, the food, the culture, but I just didn't mesh well with the people. It might have been where I was at that point in my life. Maybe I just went in not liking it, but I did not enjoy my
Keep
time in Boston.
keep in mind you're cooped up. Like I know someone who lives there. It's like 50 degrees there this weekend. It's 90 here.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of chilly. It's probably not gray and depressing because the leaves have finally come out, but it's cold there most of the year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And people have this mentality where they just accept that it's the winter and we're
Mhm.
not going to do anything and we're
Yeah.
just going to stay at home. We're not going to work out. Not an active lifestyle at
Mm.
all. And I'm like,
Mhm.
this is depressing.
Yeah.
Like, get up and do something. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, it's snowing, it's cold." I'm like, this is not what I want in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when your time was up there, you were ready to come back?
Yeah, I tried to get out of there before my time was up there. Yeah.
Is that the mothership in the U.S.? Is that why you had to go up there? Or
No, so they had just opened an office up there and they were hiring people for my role out of there. So they wanted me to move up there. Now it's Atlanta. So everyone that's getting
Okay.
hired now is in Atlanta. And yeah, that's just where they had all their funding. They got a new office and they were trying to grow that team.
Yeah.
What are
makes
you
sense.
doing for that company?
I'm an account executive. So I'm a salesperson. I lead our engagements with customers to identify any challenges they're looking to address, any process improvements, any initiatives, etc. I'll bring in my team. We'll identify like the software that we have. We'll identify the challenges, etc. How they want to improve their business, challenges they're dealing with, and then the software solutions that'll help them get there. How they'll help them get there. We show them that, and then we sell them software.
Okay. And are
Yep.
you enjoying it still?
Yeah, I love it. It's really hard, and I like it a
It's
lot.
challenging.
It's very challenging.
So were they okay with you leaving Boston?
I got promoted.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then you could leave.
Yeah, so when I got promoted to the South team and was fully remote. So I left Boston.
And then where did you go when you left Boston?
I came down to Fort Lauderdale. I moved in with Nick that you guys
from
spoke to
YIFNO.
the other
YIFNO.
day.
If you haven't listened to that episode, we did an episode with Nick Wucher from YIFNO, which stands for Yo, It's Fucking Nice Out.
Yep.
And he's an entrepreneur. So definitely look for that episode. It's a great episode. And you lived with him
I did.
last year.
And check
right?
out yifno.com.
Yes,
If you need some
YIFNO.com.
some trendy, great clothes.
Yeah.
It's not just a clothing company; it's a lifestyle.
It's a,
but,
yeah, it's a
check it out.
It is. It's a great brand.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. Do you know about his the five senses that they have? It's he wants the whole brand to be felt with all the senses. So see, hear, touch, smell, and taste.
Okay.
So they're expanding into all those. So they have a wine that they're
Yeah.
developing and a candle for scent. And the scene would be the scene,
The
you know,
pop-up
the
shows and
pop-up
stuff.
show. Yeah. And the hearing is the radio, the
Mhm.
YIFNO radio. And then the touch is the clothing.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant marketing.
He cares about his company a lot, and he's put a lot of time and effort and just is intentional with what he does. And I don't think it's an if, it's a when.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
gonna
100%.
succeed and blow up. That man
Absolutely.
works very, very hard, and he's a visionary, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, listeners, you should go to yifno.com and get some stuff because I agree with you. It's going to be a win. You're going to be hearing about this
Yep.
brand more than you realize. So get in now.
Get in now. Buy early.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention is for folks who did listen to that episode, Nick is up in New York, like he talked
Yes,
about,
yes.
and so it's all going well.
That's
yes,
a great point.
Yes, he is
Yeah.
up there
He's
now. Yeah.
in there head first. Only reason he's up there is the company.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So and follow him on Instagram and TikTok as well. Okay, so so you lived with Nick last year. And then are you still in Fort Lauderdale?
I'm in Miami now.
Okay, what made you decide to go to Miami?
Nick was leaving. So he was moving up to New York. I knew that. And the rest of my friends, outside of my friend Tito, Eric, and my buddy Roland, who was moving in with his girlfriend, all the rest of my friends lived either in Miami or Boca. So it was, all right, either live by myself or I try somewhere else out. And my plan in life is to end up in St. Petersburg near the rest of my family that's located here in the U.S. So let's try Miami. Let's give it a shot. I always loved Miami. I think it's one of a kind. Probably my
for sure.
favorite city.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just gave it a shot. I had one of my best friends, Juan, that needed a roommate as well. So it kind of lined up perfectly.
And you're enjoying it.
I love it.
So are there any cons to living in Miami?
There's plenty of cons. There's cons of living everywhere. Yeah.
But what would you say? It sounds like Miami's a really good fit. Is there anything that doesn't fit for you?
A lot of the people down there. There's a lot of great people. Some of my favorite people live down there, but there's definitely a culture of like influencers and gold diggers and things like that, as the stereotype is, and that's just doesn't really mesh with me. Give you an example. You go to the gym, everyone has a fucking tripod recording
Really?
themselves work out.
Okay.
That's
And
annoying.
I'm just like, what are we doing here,
Yeah,
man?
yeah.
Like, listen, if you're some jack dude or some girl that's absolutely ripped and jacked and you're making content, great. But when you look like every other guy, like when you're literally just built like a normal dude and you're
Yeah.
recording every workout you do, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Do you
yeah.
ever photobomb anybody? Like get in and mess with their shots or anything?
I don't mess with it, but I don't like.
You don't
You don't
scoot
adjust.
around it.
I don't adjust at all.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
walk right in front of your camera. I don't give a fuck.
Do they get mad?
I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
look at them. I pay for the gym too.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of gyms are now starting to have no recording. What do you call it? Like
Rules.
rules,
yeah.
because it's getting so crazy.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people are recording in the locker rooms, and then people are suing.
Yeah.
So they're starting to be like nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I could see that it's gone so far that pretty soon there'll be just a few gyms where influencers can go, and the rest of them will get back to normal.
Yeah.
More.
For sure.
But overall, Miami's been
Yeah, Miami's great.
positive.
I really like one thing I really like about Miami is there's a lot of Hispanic people and Hispanic culture,
Yeah.
and their people in their culture, the way they interact with their families, the way they care about each other and their friends, and how it's always family first and like kind of the community first. That reminds me a lot of Morocco
Mm-hmm.
and how I grew up in my family. So I love that so
Yeah,
much.
that makes sense.
Like all my friends, I know their parents, grandparents, they always invite us over. We'll hang out with them, etc. And that feels like something,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
something important, and I
Reminds you
like
of
That's
that a
cool.
home
lot.
a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's in St. Pete? Is it your dad?
It's my brother, my dad, my brother's wife, my nephew Zane, and my aunt, her son, and my cousin.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and her son would be your cousin too,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so you have some cousins, you have your nephew,
Mhm.
who's how old is he now?
He's going on 9 months now.
Oh my gosh. And I've seen pictures. He's adorable.
He's a cutie.
Are you
He's the
loving
world's
being an
cutest baby.
uncle? Are you loving
I
loving it?
love that kid so much.
Yeah.
It's insane. I am single-handedly moving back to St. Petersburg because of him.
Yeah.
Because I just want to be around for him coming up and all the small moments. Teach him how to play soccer. Teach him
Yeah.
everything I know.
You probably didn't know how what it meant, how it would feel until they handed him to you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like,
Did you-
oh.
Yeah.
Did-
And you're
did
like,
you-
I will literally kill for this.
Right,
for this guy
right.
right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you cry when you held him for the first time?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
But it gives you a little bit of a window into what it's like to be a parent
It does.
and how much love a parent has for their child.
And how much damn effort
Yeah.
goes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nonstop, ever.
Never ends.
Never ends. Like it
24/7.
Like I used to go over to my brother's place and we used to just hang out, play video games, or go out and play soccer or shit like that. Now it's like he's on the clock
Yep.
24/7.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
might get an hour from
Yeah.
10 to 11 p.m.
It's so it's funny you say that. My buddy came over earlier. He had his kid with him, and I noticed I'm just sitting against the car, and he's walking around. The kid goes further, so I had to shift cars. I was chilling, but he's having to chase this
Yeah.
little guy around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of work.
It
You
does
just-
evolve.
Yeah.
It
And
does.
nothing's the same anymore, right?
No.
You
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
person that relies on you for everything.
Yep.
And if anything happens to them, it's your fault
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
their caregiver.
Yeah.
Does that scare you to be a dad or make you want to be one?
I'm
Hmm.
really excited.
Yeah,
It does not scare me.
That's
that's
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Because it isn't just the physical safety. You're, I always say you're wearing your heart on your sleeve, and then when your children leave, your heart leaves with them.
Mhm.
It's the emotional and mental exhaustion of the worry, the love, all
Yep.
that. So that's what really never ends. Because there is an evolution. Eventually, you're not having to follow them around all
Yeah.
the time, right? But almost the more independent they get, the bigger the worries are. But it's so rewarding. Like I always say there's an emotion you don't have until you become a parent.
Yeah.
It's a totally different emotion. And once you become a parent, you're like, oh, and then you also understand why your parents were so crazy at
Yeah.
times. Cause you're like, I get it now, but it's cool. I'm happy for your brother and his wife.
Me too.
I'm sure they're loving it.
They are. They're great parents, both
That's
of them.
awesome. And then
Yeah.
how's your dad doing over there?
He's doing well. Yeah, my dad has had Parkinson's disease since he was 47, so about 15 years now.
Wow.
So he got pretty far. It got pretty bad.
Okay. So when he came back over here, did he open up more businesses?
Yeah, same business that
The
he had
gas
before.
station.
Yeah.
And then, so he's just working his job, running his gas station. And then what made him go to the doctor when he was around that age to say something's going on? Do you know?
He got diagnosed with Parkinson's in Morocco before he moved back here.
Oh,
So he
okay.
used to, he had this right here, like between your index and your thumb.
Yeah.
Started hitting one of these. Started like
Like twitching.
twitching and just moving his finger on its own. Right.
Okay.
Like he wasn't in control. So he went to the doctor. He's like, "What the fuck is this?" And they were like, "You have early symptoms of Parkinson's." And then it went from that muscle to his hand to his arm to his like whole arm and shoulder, and then just spread across his whole body.
So the progression, how long did that take?
About to be like to its worst point, like 10 years.
So from like 47 to 57 is when
57.
it was progressing.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
62.
Okay.
Gonna turn 62 in August.
So that had to have been a complete blow for you and your brother.
Yeah. And for him.
And well, obviously for
Yeah.
him. Did he continue running his gas station through the progression of the disease?
Until towards the end. Then he had a couple, and then he sold one of them, and then just had the single one.
And how did his mental state, how was that affected during that time?
Very much so, because as a man, being the provider forever. Now you're walking into a room, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're so sick. I feel so bad for you."
Mm,
He just stopped seeing people. Like
okay.
just
Was there pressure on you to come back and run the family business at all?
my brother was helping with that.
Yeah.
I've made it clear from early on that I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was a little bit of pressure up front, and I told him, I was like, "That's not."
Being a boy,
Yeah.
the male, yeah,
Yeah, I was like, "I don't want to do
yeah,
that. That's not the career path I'm taking."
yeah, yeah.
So did he end up kind of isolating himself?
Yeah.
And not seeing friends,
Mhm.
not going to mosque,
No
um,
family or
no not even your mom's sister, cousins. What about you?
yeah, absolutely.
So you and your brother became his only people he
Yeah.
would see. What about his
And
daughter-in-law
his girlfriend.
and then your brother's girlfriend?
No, my dad's girlfriend.
Oh, so he has
Yeah.
a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, has she been there since he got to America, basically? Like with him a long time?
She's been with him for a while.
So she's been here during the progression.
She's lives in Morocco and visits.
Okay.
But she'll come here for extended periods of time. But pretty much that was it. He had her and me and my brother. And yeah, he kind of just isolated himself. Didn't enjoy being around people. And it's a very interesting disease because the more stressed out you get, the more you shake.
Yeah.
So he would go to a restaurant, he'd be fine. Then the waiter would start asking him questions, and he'd start shaking a little bit, and then he'd notice someone looked at him shaking, and he'd start shaking more. So it's really tough. And
It's
it got
interesting. It's tied psychologically.
yeah.
That what's going on in your brain can trigger it,
Mhm.
like right then.
Yeah, it's
Right
not
then.
just a like an autoimmune physical thing. I was talking about this where psilocybin's being experimented on with Parkinson's patients. So minor doses of psilocybin, magic mushrooms, right?
Mushrooms.
And it's helping because it reduces the anxiety and the depression, and has a positive impact on the twitching and the shaking.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, but there is a mind body component, obviously, but
Yes.
more a psychological mind part of it.
So the area that creates dopamine in your brain doesn't create it anymore when you have
Yeah.
Parkinson's. That's one of the main causes. So I'm sure that helps with
Yeah.
the psilocybin. But so then you're taking a medicine that creates fake dopamine, and that's dangerous because you're
Yeah.
just taking a dopamine pill. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Did the dopamine pill make the Parkinson's worse?
No, it may have made the Parkinson's worse, but it helped with the symptoms at that point in time. So he would shake less.
Okay.
Um,
So basically, if his brain chemistry was regulated, then he shook less.
yes.
So did he try any experimental?
Well, he's pretty much good now.
So what happened?
So he found out about a surgery called deep brain stimulation.
Deep brain stimulation. Okay.
This is pretty incredible, I think. Nathan gave me the update, and I'm curious to hear this, actually.
It's
Okay.
absolutely fascinating. It's
Oh,
one of the most incredible things that I've seen, and it's like I've always respected doctors and nurses, but seeing this go down, I was like, these people are godsends, and this is like, it made me reconsider my career. I was like, this is a real fucking job.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing is I'm just making money. Like this is a real fucking career with these.
Meaningful.
Exactly.
Okay, so for your dad's Parkinson's that he had for what, 14 years? He's tried this new surgery called
Deep brain stimulation.
deep brain stimulation. Okay, so for our listeners who maybe are going through that or have family members, can you describe what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So what they do is they insert a device into your brain. So it's brain surgery. Right?
Okay.
And you have your right side of your brain, your left side of your brain. So there's two devices in there. And they insert a device and a battery. That device goes all the way into like the middle part of your head where your dopamine is created. And that device with the battery heats up that area in your brain so that it starts creating dopamine again, because that's what's created. It's that heat, that pressure in there. There's obviously a scientific explanation that I don't know, but this is how the doctor explained it to me. So this device is connected to a remote, right? You turn it on and it starts heating up that area of your brain and pretty much reverses what caused your Parkinson's. So instead of you lacking dopamine for it not being able to heat up, now it heats up and you're producing dopamine like normal, so you stop shaking. And you literally have a device that you can turn on or turn off that controls that.
That is amazing.
It's insane.
Didn't Nathan? I think he might have been telling me. I might be confusing things, but wasn't he awake as they were doing it, or did he get knocked out?
He got knocked out.
He did. Okay.
Yeah. He got knocked out. They put it in, and then they woke him up and tested it on him for the first time while he was awake.
Okay.
But
how long was he in surgery for?
4 hours, maybe 5.
And was this in St. Pete?
Tampa General.
So Tampa General in Florida does this surgery.
Dr. Oliver Flouty. Shout out to that man. Absolute impeccable human, great doctor, very respected in that hospital, clearly, very young man. And he just changed all of our lives.
That is amazing.
Just with his hands.
So your dad now can function normally?
He doesn't shake anymore.
He doesn't shake?
No.
Does so everyone associates the shaking with Parkinson's, right? Were there other things, like psychological things or mind function symptoms? Yeah.
Well, I think the psychological things were mainly created by A, you shaking, how you feel about yourself, and B, the medicine you would take, because you're pretty much taking a medicine that creates fake dopamine in your head, and that leads to compulsive behaviors like I was just reading about this because I didn't even know what this drug was until years of my dad taking it, and I actually was just listening to a podcast and heard about it. But this medicine creating fake dopamine gives you compulsive habits like drinking, gambling, trying to sleep around.
It's a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Were you seeing your dad having any of those traits from that medicine?
Not necessarily, but I spent very little time with my dad, going to college and then moving to Boston, etc. So I wasn't with him for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
So all of these symptoms, I'm just reading about him.
But he's done with that, right?
He doesn't take the medicine anymore.
So
that's
he's
incredible.
Living a normal life now.
He got another lease on his life.
And how long ago was this?
January.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was recent.
Very recent. Yeah.
And is the recovery minimal?
It's a couple weeks. I went up there. I took care of him. I took him to surgery, stayed with him throughout surgery, took care of him until he was back to like 80-90%. It wasn't.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
It's 100% a miracle.
It's a miracle.
So how has he retackled life? What things has he done again now?
He's been traveling.
Yeah.
He's been literally just enjoying his life, working out. He's living the life of a young man again.
Has a smile again.
Yeah.
He can hold
Happy.
his grandson.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't as well before, right?
Now he's scared to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like he was so self-conscious that he wouldn't want to do that.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I mean, that is a godsend, I think. And
Took him to
100%.
Disney World a couple months ago. He's a new man. It's really, really incredible.
And you said he's going to be 63. He's still a young man. I know it sounds old to you guys, but trust me, you're still living when you're that age.
Absolutely.
So
you're not even retired for most people.
No.
Yeah.
That's absolutely okay. So again, if anyone has a family member or is suffering this themselves, it's called deep
brain stimulation.
Deep brain stimulation, and Tampa General definitely does it. And the doctor again is
Oliver Flouty.
Dr. Oliver Flouty.
Incredible man, great doctor.
Life changing. And the success rate, is your dad, is that a pretty normal example of the success rate of this surgery?
Yep. The doctor was like, you have nothing to worry about. He's like, we do this all the time now. And it's successful.
I'm blown away.
Me too. And listen, I may have messed up or gotten some of the details wrong around the sickness, the medicine, etc. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but that's the surgery he got, and that's the results that I've seen with my own eyes.
It's amazing.
So people can just go Google it. They don't have,
don't take my word for it. Google it.
That is,
call Tampa General. They'll tell you all about it.
I'm so happy for your dad, for you, your brother,
your whole family,
my nephew,
your nephew, your whole family. Yeah, it's so wonderful.
Yeah,
that's great. Yep. So that's like 2025. Anything else can happen. That 2025 is already the best year.
Yep.
For that.
And
so
it's crazy. He's walking around with 2 batteries in his head at all times.
Can you see them? Like they're probably small, right?
Yeah. So the doctor, being the genius that he is, he put the devices in right where his hairline starts, so his hairline covers the scars.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Does he have to go to like a follow up to get the batteries either recharged or replaced, or I imagine there's some maintenance to go along.
25-year battery
No
life.
shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
New technology, the latest one.
Yeah.
And usually a lot of people do one battery,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's takes up more energy. So it's a shorter time frame. The doctor goes, I recommend you getting two. You're 60. You'll probably never have to get it changed.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you having to help him out at all once you got out of school and you were working? Were you having to go back to St. Pete to like help him when he was in the deep throes of the suffering?
No, because thankfully my brother was always there.
Okay.
My brother never left St. Pete, so my brother was always taking him to his doctor's appointments, helping him out, whatever he needed. And my dad, being the man that he was, wasn't the type to ask for help. So, yeah, it was either my brother would help him out with things or he would just figure it out.
Yeah. Was there anything that you learned from watching your dad go through this that you took away from it?
Life's short, so enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day you could be healthy, the next you're dying, have a disease like Parkinson's that'll completely change your life, whatever.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
Yeah, it's true. It's something that it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
Every day truly is a gift.
Yep.
And your health is a gift. They always say like people for most people you have 100 problems, but if you are suffering from a health issue, you only have one problem, and that's it.
Right.
So your health is the number one thing.
Yep.
So
a lot of people have a lot of money and a lot of resources and they get cancer and die.
Yeah, unfortunately. So
very unfortunate.
I'm absolutely thrilled for your family. I can't imagine. Now, when was the last time you saw your mom?
January last year.
How often do you see her?
I try to go once a year. This year with work, it's delayed, but I plan to go July 3rd.
And then do you stay for a while when you go back there?
Usually about 15, 20 days.
Okay, which of course is not enough for her.
No. She's like, come for a month. I'm like, Mom, I have a career and a job. I can't leave for a month.
Can she not come back here at all?
Not yet. We're trying to figure that out for her.
Well, is there hope that eventually she will be able to?
Is she on is there some U.S. law like if you get
7 years?
7-year violation? Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to be coming up on that, right?
We're past it.
So now it's just paperwork?
Paperwork, reapply, got rejected. And now just got to hire a good lawyer that knows what he's doing, who's done this before.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll help her out.
And it's tough time right now too, right? It's not the ideal time to try.
I told her last administration was probably her best shot.
Yeah.
Could have just got dropped off in Mexico and walked over. But
yeah.
It's true. But she probably doesn't want to live here again, does she?
She does not want to live here. No.
So just the freedom, she can't even come visit, right? So it's just the freedom to be able to visit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully, I assume by the time at least you have a family, hopefully this will all be, I'm sure it's killing her that she can't see.
Yeah.
Has she seen him?
No, not yet. Been 9 months. She hasn't seen him yet. So me and my brother are trying to get that figured out so she can at least come see him here. Because it's easier for her to come here than 3 people to go over there.
Right. And they probably want the baby a little older even before they would take him over there.
Exactly, right.
But I'm sure they FaceTime.
Yeah.
All that
day,
stuff. All that stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
sure she's absolutely, both your parents are over the moon about being grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the next thing on our list, hopefully. I've been looking forward to that for 10 years. So I can't even imagine. Like,
You hear that, Nathan?
Yeah. Oh, he knows. He knows. Okay, so I have to ask you, because you are out there in the heart of it, what is it like for your age out there dating? Because you have the dating apps, you have social media. When we were growing up, it was just old school, meet people face to face and maybe call them on a landline phone and maybe make plans for the weekend. And that was it.
Yeah.
But for you guys, I feel like there's so many variables involved.
There are. I don't use the dating apps. So I can't really speak to that much. I did back like around college or right out of college, but don't really use them too much. But it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people's initial contacts are established over social media. Like I've met a lot of friends and girls that I've maybe dated or taken out on a date or something like that via social media. You just stumble across a profile, you're like, it's a good looking person. Looks like they got a decent life. We have some friends in common. Let me reach out. So that's interesting. I think a lot of people are now relying on social media and on the dating apps and won't just walk up to a girl and everything I say is from a man's perspective because I don't have the other, but walk
Right.
up to a girl at a bar and just ask her for her name, number, how you doing? Let me take you out. Let me get to know you, whatever it may be. So it's very interesting. I think it makes things simpler for the guys that are willing to go out and talk to girls and meet them and not nervous or worried about those things. But yeah, it's
Do you get, so are you one of those guys that will go up and just talk to a girl?
it depends. I feel like when I'm out more often than not, but like I don't just randomly see a girl walking down the street or like at the
Right.
gym or something and just walk up. I should, but I don't.
When you have approached girls, is it do you get a positive response, or are they kind of taken aback that you're using this approach?
Depends on the girl.
Yeah.
Depends on my approach. Depends where you're approaching them.
Yeah.
It's a really wide
Right.
range of answers there, but certain girls want to meet someone, so they'll
Yeah.
talk to you, they'll get to know you, and they'll either enjoy the conversation or they'll walk away, right? Just like anyone else would. Some girls are stuck up and don't want anyone to walk up to them unless they pick them. So there's that, and some girls will walk up to you. That just depends on your luck and what you do, how you walk up, what you say.
Are you getting the vibe though that in general people your age do still want to get married, have a family, have a future, or is it still very much dating hookup culture for your age?
I feel like most of my guy friends want kids.
Mm,
A lot of girls I know don't want kids.
that's interesting.
Very interesting.
Interesting. It is.
But I'd say most of my close friends, other than the couple, plan to get married and have kids.
What about your friends that are girls? They're the ones who are saying they don't want kids?
Not like all of them, but a lot of girls that I know don't want to have kids.
Yeah, there's a shift.
Yeah.
What
There's a
is
shift.
that shift? What do you think's going on
I
there?
know what's going on. There's a shift with the Gen Z, and I could be wrong. I'm curious your thoughts on it. With the Gen Z girls, there's a shift. I think because we've talked about this. The Gen Z girls are not going to take on the domestic load at home like the Gen X women did. They have higher standards and expectations of their partner, and I think they also view having kids as giving over a lot of themselves and a lot of their life. And I don't know if they're willing to
But
do that.
I'm curious that I get your perspective.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about that, but does that resonate
Yeah, that
for
I was
you?
going to ask you.
Do you think that they don't want to carry the domestic load? Is that part of the baggage of it in a sense, or?
I would think so. I think that a lot of them just either have higher expectations, air quotes on that,
Mhm.
of what they want to do with their lives. I think it's common when a lot of people or a lot of women that are stay-at-home moms, you ask them what they do and they say, I'm just a mom, which is not something to say I'm just about. Having been raised by a mom who's a stay-at-home mom, it's a job that doesn't end.
Yep.
But it's just the culture now. You should have your career, you should be making your own money, you should be independent, girl boss, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't align with having kids because a lot of times people think of having kids and they're like, oh, the wife's going to stay at home, the mom's going to stay at home and take care of them. And I feel like a lot of people in our generation view that as like, you settled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think that and I do think there are women in your generation that do want to be stay-at-home moms. I think that they do get judged for sure. Like they're viewed as like trad wives or something like that. But I think you're right. I think it's that the value of a mom staying home and raising the kids has been lowered so much in their eyes, or they naturally think or they automatically think it would be them. But maybe maybe when you meet someone, you talk about the roles, you never know. There could be a guy that's like, I'll stay home if you want to work. Honestly, there
I
could be
would've.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
If I got
Once
the
he did-
offer, I
yeah.
would do it.
Yeah.
Like if
100%.
if she's girl bossing like that, and if the guy was like, I'll work from home and I'll take care of the kid, like there's ways to work this out.
100%.
There's ways to work this out. Like it's to their detriment if they automatically think they're the ones that would stay home. They're almost being misogynistic about themselves because there could be guys out there that would meet them halfway and say, no, we could figure this out. It's not all on you.
Yeah.
You have to have that conversation.
100%.
But I do think the value of although I'm wondering if it's changing because I do see, and again, this is just on social media. There are girls out there around your age that are like, you know what, this girl boss thing isn't quite. I want to live a soft life.
Yeah.
This is like I don't want to be grinding. I think this stay-at-home mom thing actually is a good deal.
I've heard that from a few girls recently. They're like, I'm
Yeah.
tired of working. I need to get married and have a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I
Now-
don't blame you.
I think that when they go maybe are going through their 20s and thinking da da da, and then some of them are like, I don't want to do this. This is
Yeah.
a lot. Like not that I was a stay-at-home mom. You're right. It's 24/7. It never ends. Yeah. And we had a very traditional marriage, and I've talked about this in episodes. Very traditional marriage where he worked and I was home, and I took care of everything on the domestic front. And if I could go back, I would have had that more of a conversation and divided up the domestic load more. But that's not our generation.
Mhm.
I think your generation has adjusted and changed, and they've watched their moms, their aunts, their grandmas work themselves to death, and they're like, I don't want that. But not realizing doesn't mean just because you have a family you're going to have that. You guys have evolved. Talk it out. Like the men in your generation, I think would meet the women in your lives halfway. I don't think you guys are going to come in and say, no, you cook every night and you do all the cleaning. And I think you guys are more evolved than that. But you have to be open to that conversation.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. And I think especially with the work from home age now,
Yeah.
the barrier's never been lower. So
Yeah.
you could have a career and raise kids. I don't know how you would do that. I don't
You
think
might have to bring in someone to help,
Yeah.
but you're at least there's still a parent. Having someone help you and the parent is in the house is different than
My buddy's doing that.
daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy's doing
Yeah.
that. Works great.
Yeah, I had someone in the house growing up as well in Morocco.
Yeah.
And it's helpful. I mean, there's a lot of shit to do always.
Oh, always.
Um,
But then they're not just left with a stranger and you're not there.
Yeah.
Or with a person. Like there's still a parent present.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do this. And I
There
think
is.
your generation, like you said, even work from home has all of the options to make it work as a couple.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be these automatic roles. Like your roles can be fluid, they can change. So one person may have a better paying job for 5 years and then the other person may get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just will be curious to see if the girls in your generation, more of them open to that possibility. Because I think a lot of them are thinking, I don't want to just be tied down by taking care of a family. But I think there's ways to you're not going to necessarily be
think-
tied down.
Do you guys think though it's tied down to a family or tied into a relationship? Because you can
That's
be
what I
the
was-
dink.
That's
Right.
exactly what I was just about to say. I was going to say that I feel like a lot of the people you hear this from, guys and girls, just haven't found their person yet.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you do, and then you're like, oh shit, well, I didn't think about getting married, but that's my girl or that's my guy. I'm going to stay with them. And you get married and you're like, well, I'll have a kid with that person.
Yeah.
And all of that starts to change.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah,
But
so
I
I
do
think you're spot on.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do think it's important to have that conversation about the roles before you get married. I always say that. Have that talk. Like, how do you see this home running? When we have kids, how do you start it right from because a lot of people will wait, get married, and then they realize we're on two totally different pages, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. Just to get your opinion from someone your age, I personally think that when a guy meets this person, he knows pretty quickly, and within a year, he knows if he's going to marry her, and he will make his move within a year or two to lock her down. Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I really don't. I haven't experienced that yet.
So do you know anyone who's gone through that yet?
Yeah. I know a couple people that met their girl or girlfriend and pretty quickly were like, this is my one. Sometimes it doesn't work out,
Mm,
but sometimes it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about as far as even dating? Like, because situationships and all that are rampant in your generation. I'm assuming you have had girlfriends.
I have.
So before have you known pretty quickly the girls that you have dated? Have you known pretty quickly, I'm going to date her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right away.
So that would be the equivalent
Yeah.
of that.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my ex-girlfriend in college, I think I wanted to date her. I don't know if she wanted to date me, but I kind of like wiggled my way in there. High school, same thing. The girl was on the soccer team. I was on the soccer team. And not to sound like a weirdo, I was 15, but like I would watch we were done practice, I'd watch them practice, and I was like, oh, I need that girl right there. So I've always had like someone that I
Yeah.
wanted, and
hmm
whether I've gotten them or not, when I did get them, that ended up being a relationship. Yeah,
So do you think it's fair to say a guy knows when it's someone he either is going to date or marry,
a guy knows what he wants. Yeah,
and he'll go for it?
like here's the way I put it: a guy knows whether he wants to have fun with the girl, whether he wants to take her serious pretty quickly.
Okay. And I always say a girl, if a girl feels confused about a guy, then he's not sure about, like, you shouldn't feel confused. If a guy wants you and likes you, he makes it clear.
It depends on the age. In college, it's all confusion
Okay.
because in college you're fighting the battle of I want this person, but I'm really young and this is my college experience.
Mm.
So it's constantly pushing and pulling of that. A lot of people meet someone in college that may have worked out for them, but they're just not mature enough yet.
hmm
But at an older age, post graduation, like 25 plus, I think it should be pretty
Should be pretty clear.
clear. Yeah.
So
That's my opinion.
if a guy is breadcrumbing you or dangling the carrot and carrying a situationship, then should the girl kind of assume he's not going to date you?
Yeah, I would think so.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think too. That's what
Listen,
I
I
think
don't want
too.
to
No.
throw the
No,
guys
it's
under the
fair.
bus here, but
No.
it's the dragging on and well, I kind of like you, I like you, but it's either looking for company, sex, or just something in between there.
In that scenario, do you think the guy has a couple of those going on? Would that be more of a typical thing?
A lot of times, yes, but I don't think it's exclusive to guys. I think a
not
lot
at
of
all,
girls have a lot of things on the side going on as well, but a person that does that consistently usually has a couple people,
Yeah,
especially my generation. It's called a roster.
Mm.
But usually there's a couple people in
Now, when
there.
you say girls do it, do they also breadcrumb? And meaning that, I'll give you a little bit here, just to keep you in.
Yeah, well, it's different because with guys, if a girl's giving you sex, that's pretty much all
Right.
you care about to stay in the picture, right?
Right.
So I feel like with girls, it's a breadcrumb of sex, and with guys, it's a breadcrumb of attention and emotions.
Yep.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's the difference. So some girls just want to have someone that they can call whenever they want to and get laid.
But don't you think, like, I know people say like girls do situationships too, but don't you think it's rare that a girl is doing that and the guy is wanting to lock her down and she's like, no, I just want to have sex? Isn't it more guys that, because I just don't, it seems like if the guy is getting sex, like you said, and that's pretty much what he wants, then wouldn't there be a fewer number of guys that be like, no, but I also want a relationship, and she's like, no, I just want to have sex.
I think a girl's quicker to cut it off if a guy gets feelings, so she
Mm,
doesn't have to deal with that.
okay.
Versus a guy, a lot of guys, not all guys, they'll drag it on as long as they need to.
They'll play the mind games.
They'll play the mind games.
She doesn't want to deal with
Yeah,
that.
certain guys are definitely like that. Certain girls are like that as well, but I feel like girls don't get too messy when it comes to that. They're just like, this guy wants me way too much. I'm getting out of it.
I'm getting out of it.
Versus a guy sometimes is like, oh, I got this girl. She wants me. Like,
And-
I got this in the bag. I can do whatever I want in this situation.
And he will, as long as she allows it.
Mhm.
And that's why I say I think it's on the girls to they're in control of the situationship and how far it goes in general. I know there's girls that play the game too, but in general, at least when it's going on with a guy, I think the girl's the one that can either stop it or not. And if she's giving it up, she's not stopping it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you see a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just someone's flashlight. It's not an actual.
Well, so that's why I say by 3 months, they need to have a conversation and be like, what is this? And if he can't answer, then they need to walk away.
3 months
right?
Probably a good amount of time for that. Yeah, I would say so. If it's like consistent for 3 months,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think 2 months,
But
but I don't know about with your generation. 2 months may sound too fast, and 2 months may feel too soon to truly know someone.
It depends on the 3 months. I feel like it could be 3 months where you saw someone once a month or every other weekend. That's very different than 3 months where you're meeting with someone. Sometimes it's a month and a half where you're seeing someone multiple
True.
times a week all the time. Like,
True.
then it's like, what are we doing here? Versus like it could be a 3 months where I see a girl 2 weeks in a row and then I don't see her for like a month and then I see her again a couple times in a row. So like that emotion comes up and then it fades and then it comes up again and it's like you're not thinking about them too much. But if it's all back to back to back, you're always hanging out with them, you're always with them. It's like, all right, what are we doing here?
That speeds up the timeline. And then I feel like that's more the girl is probably saying, "What are we doing here?" more than the guy, right?
More, yeah. Guys definitely say that as well. But I think girls would probably say that more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's affected dating for you guys? This whole situationship, or do you think it actually is a pro and allows you to get to know different people and have all these different experiences with different people?
I think it depends how you take it. I think it definitely allows you to know a lot of different people and know what you like in a person, what you don't like. I think it's always also given birth to this red flag generation and
Yes.
era where it's like, and I saw something on the podcast the other day from Andrew Schultz where he was like, this red flag shit is just people that are lonely trying to be with someone they don't want to be with. And they're like, oh, that's the red flag I don't like. It's like, if you
Mm,
really liked someone, there's a bunch of red flags, but you just fucking figure it out and deal with them.
yeah, yeah.
true. I mean,
Versus,
barring abuse.
of course,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
not a red flag.
Yeah, yeah. That's a run.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
run, find help. And
Yeah, but you're saying yes. Yeah,
yeah,
because for sure in our generation, we all looked past the red flags and just went for it. And then we either worked it out or we might have gotten divorced 10 years later. But yeah, your generation is way aware of red flags.
yeah. Like
And yeah.
I knew this girl that showed me a shared notes document that she had with her girlfriends, and it was 300 points long of red flags.
Yeah.
And it was shit like when you come home and he's on the couch cuddled up in a blanket.
Well, that's like ick stuff.
Icks, yeah, icks, yeah.
Icks, yeah.
Like red flags and icks,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
No, and it's the question of, are the icks going to stop you from dating this guy? Because it's really analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Like you start picking apart something so much that you're not going to move forward with anything because everyone's going to have something.
Yeah, well,
You know.
I think it's indicative of just our generation of having a ton of options for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's food on Uber Eats, whether it's places to travel because you can go anywhere you want to, people to date because of social media. You have 1,000 followers, and that's not that many nowadays.
Yeah.
So you're seeing all these people, and you're like, well, I could have that. Like, no, you're not gonna have that.
Right.
You're gonna have the same or similar type of people that you've been with your whole life for a reason. So it's just too many options all around.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much that no one can make a decision.
Yeah.
And like lock because there's always that thought, but there could be something else better.
I'm settling.
Yeah, you're settling. You think you're settling.
Yeah.
Like that because there could be that next thing. And then eventually if you live your life like that, you're like 50 and you never made a decision or did anything. You
Yeah.
just are constantly done. And there's people like that. There's people that are 40, 45, 50 that haven't done anything and they're from an older generation. So I can't even imagine for you guys the detriment that could have.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you just got to take a risk. Like,
you got to go for it
yeah,
sometimes.
you got to go for it. It might be some things you don't like and you could work them out. But if you're not willing to take that risk, you just end up surface level.
You got to try.
Yeah.
You got to try. I think we talked about that in one of our earliest episodes is if you think you've met someone, you got to just do it. Have the full authentic experience. And like you're saying, if it falls apart, you at least had an experience. But constantly dipping your toe in the water and never jumping in, you're not living.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go for it sometime or else you're really only getting like 20% of what this whole experience could be.
Yeah.
And every experience gives you something to learn. You learn something from, like you had said earlier, with your job, your first job, you learned what you don't want.
Same with dating.
Same with dating.
Yeah.
And I always say every person you date is a stepping stone leading you to your person.
Mhm.
So, but if you never take those steps, you're not going to get there.
Exactly.
You
Right.
know, and I know there's going to be women that are like, well, I don't want to get married. But most people do want a partner. You know, I even with the girl boss and all that, I think most people invariably want that person that's their person, that's their best friend. They can talk to about anything. You know, life's not easy. So it's much easier to do it with your best friend. But you got to be open to that.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's what's natural.
yeah.
A man and a woman find each other, get married, have kids, you start a family.
Yeah.
Like that's natural, and
Mhm.
people can try to fight that in whatever ways. There's plenty of ways that they do, but at the end of the day, that's what's been going on for all of humanity, and that's what's natural.
Well, it can give your life a lot of meaning too,
Yeah.
and purpose
Yeah.
and direction
Yeah.
and all those things.
I
So,
think honestly, his perspective's the most completely we've had so far,
yeah.
because we've focused so much on guys are doing a situationship to girls, but you brought up a really good point. They're doing it as well.
Mhm.
So the whole situation is really tough for everybody involved, I think, in
Yeah.
that. And everything you guys just said is spot on. But this is a two-way street. And it's not just guys trying to get into situationships with girls. I think it's interesting that you brought up, and I think this is true, the girls that are doing it, they just cut out faster.
Yeah.
But the boys are
Mm.
willing to string it along further because
Yeah.
it's about sex. And it might be
Yeah.
about sex for the girl too, but that's all it is. Wants no feels, emotions, or anything, she's willing to dip sooner.
Yeah.
I think this was a,
Because she gets the ick.
Yeah.
yeah.
And especially in South Florida, there's a lot of people down here. There's a lot of options. There's a lot
Yeah.
of money. There's a lot of people that can give you really cool experiences. So, especially with girls, like guys will spend a fuck ton of money on you. Guys will
Yeah.
take you
Yeah.
out. They'll buy you shit. They'll help you travel, etc. So, a lot of girls just have so many options that they're like, well, I got this rich guy that's like kind of weird, but like
Yeah.
he'll take me out on his yacht whenever I want to go out on it.
Yeah.
So I'll keep him around.
And that's
Yeah.
that's the competition, right?
Yeah.
These guys that are willing to rent a Ferrari or a Lambo for the weekend and give the perception of they've got all this money.
Yeah.
But
Or they own it.
or they own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's not just a detriment, though, to the young men, but to the young women too, because those young women are going to be constantly enamored with the new shiny toy, and the new guy with the new shiny toy. And eventually you have, and I say this, and I know people get triggered, you've given away your baby years with all those experiences, but not with an authentic one.
Mhm.
So as much as it creates unfair competition for normal down to earth guys that aren't renting Lambos or own Lambos or whatever, but the girls, it's almost like a dopamine hit,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You know, the new
Mhm.
thing, the new thing. And then eventually, you know, you might have wasted 10 to 15 years with those experiences, as fun and as cool as they were. It can be addicting probably.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you don't realize how long you've been doing it until all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, oh God, I'd like to have a relationship. I'd like to get married, I'd like to have kids. So I think for girls, it's a cautionary tale of go have fun, enjoy yourself, but have a goal, like be aware of timing and maybe set a goal like, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 years and then I'm going to make an adjustment. You know, I don't think that's unrealistic for your generation.
Yeah.
I don't know though. There may be some young girls that would be bothered by me saying that. But I'm not meaning to press them or anything. It's almost like respect their goals and really define them and not get caught up in, because it can be a fast life doing all that.
Yeah.
And before you know it, 3 years have gone by,
Mhm.
you know, and for you guys too, you know, and getting caught up in that next thing and all that. So, and social media doesn't help with that.
Yeah. Because everyone looks so happy
Yeah.
on social media, and everyone's vacation is the greatest vacation of
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah.
And everyone's living a cooler, more fun life than you are on social media.
Yeah.
But like, you get to know some of these people, and it's like, that's tough. What
Yeah.
you're doing, you're just putting up a facade on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that aren't like that, and there's plenty of examples that aren't like that, but there's also plenty that are.
Yeah.
Um,
No, the FOMO is real. And I think with maturity comes the realization that it's not real, that
Yeah.
what they're doing is not real. It's an illusion.
Signaling.
There's yes, exactly, exactly. So do you believe in, or do you I guess, is chivalry a part of your dating? Like, do you open the door, open the car door, do all those things?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about pain?
Guy pays for everything
Right off the bat.
early on. Yes.
Now, do you
Once you start dating, I think that can shift a little bit when you're like in an established relationship. I think you see it often. It's pretty normal. My
Yeah.
relationships have been like that, where when you start dating a girl, even if it's something like you're going out to Chipotle and she's like, "Hey, you paid for our date yesterday. I'll buy this meal." I
Yeah.
think that's pretty common. But early on, I don't think you're gonna take out a girl and expect her to pay, and I don't think it makes sense for you to.
Now, do you subscribe to the new coffee date thing people are doing, where the first date's a coffee date, not a commitment to a dinner?
Uh, I get it for sure. I haven't been on a coffee date before. But I completely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think
have a question.
It's
What
not
the
a,
hell
it's
is
not a,
that?
it's not a bad move. It's like where you go to a coffee shop instead of dinner. So do you want to meet at 2 o'clock or
It's
1
during the
o'clock?
day, shorter time,
Yeah. Give some outs.
quicker in and out. Exactly. Yeah.
Almost like a
So,
little form of speed dating in a way.
Yeah.
Kinda
Is
like a,
that kind of like that? Wouldn't be like if you're. It could be. I guess that it fits into all types of scenarios. But is that more of a Tinder thing or something like a
no,
dating app thing?
first date. Just a first date. Well, I mean, if you meet on a dating app, but you can even do it on in a DM, asking someone out,
Okay.
or face to face. Like, I'll get in touch with
A
you.
nice breaker.
Yeah, I think it's for both. Like, you're not committing fully to dinner, so if like one of you doesn't like the other, you can get out of there in like an hour,
Yeah.
as opposed to a full dinner. And also, if the guy's paying, it's less of a financial obligation.
Yeah.
And then the second date's usually dinner.
So you time box the event into an hour or two coffee with the mutual understanding it's ending in an hour or two.
No.
So-
No.
what I think it is that a lot of times, a lot of times it's drinks, not
Okay.
dinner.
Okay.
And even if it is dinner, a lot of time there's alcohol involved,
Mm-hmm.
and people get loose, have fun on alcohol, and you might make a bad decision, right? Coffee date, you're drinking coffee, you're there,
Okay.
you're aware, nothing's getting past you, so you can actually get a feel for someone. I think that's what the difference is.
Got it.
Instead of going out and getting a little drunk and, oh, good music, we're having a good time.
Yeah.
Actually,
coffee.
it sounds like a very healthy, sober,
Yeah.
real experience.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's great. And as far as timing, if it's going well, it could go 4 hours if you wanted
I
to.
get
I
it.
don't think, but if it's not, you can get out of there.
Yeah.
But I have seen, and I do know of people this has happened to in real life, not just on social media, where there's guys that are wanting to split the coffee date bill. So the bill's like $15.
You probably shouldn't be taking a girl on a date.
I
You need to split a
know,
bill.
right? Don't you think? Now that's a red flag.
Yeah, I would think so.
That's a red flag. Like,
Yeah.
you can't pick up this $15 tab. Then how are you?
However much it is, it's you ask the girl on a date,
Yes.
you're the man, and this probably is gonna get people online saying, "Well, it's not true. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It does. You're
Yeah.
the man. You're paying."
Well, if you're asking,
Yeah.
you've asked her, so you're
Well,
you're
what if-
hosting her.
What if she asks? I'm with you for the record. 100% men should pay until they should just pay. It's just the way it is.
Agreed.
But what if they do ask? Does that flip it?
Like for the first date?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, no. I
No.
think a guy should.
Well,
still,
for him and I, it doesn't. I'm with you. I
Yeah.
agree too. But does it? Like,
I mean, if I asked a guy on we're going back. If I asked a guy on a date, I might offer to split it. If I asked a guy on a date, if I planned it and I was like, I might I might take care of my ticket or whatever. But I wouldn't pay for his. That would feel weird.
yeah.
But then I would want him to
No,
be,
I get it. You and I are from a different generation.
yeah, I would want him to be like, no, I got it. But yeah, I think if I asked the date, then I would, but I don't know with your,
It's a thing now with like my friend group and my generation, and it's like if you take a girl out on a date and the check comes and she kind of reaches for it or like offers to split it, there's a sense of appreciation there, but she's not gonna pay for it.
Right.
I'm not personally, I'm not gonna let her pay for it. But like a girl that the check comes and she's like, you want to split it, or I'll get it, or just grabs it or
Yeah.
something like that, I can definitely have a sense of appreciation there. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to let them pay.
So that's a green flag for a guy, because now you know you're not just getting used per se, or she's just good.
Yeah.
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 Now,
I
what
would
if
think so.
she doesn't do that though? She sits there. Is that bad?
No, not for me.
Okay. Okay.
Not for me. I don't
Yeah.
expect anything when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm paying. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
My dad was like that, whether it was with my mom or my mom's family or my mom's friends or anything like that. My dad's paying,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Just women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even if we went out with my dad, my mom, and her brother,
Mm-hmm.
my dad's gonna pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's
That's
just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
And that's where I get it from.
Yeah. Now, what about, do you find that a lot, I just can't imagine this in your circle, but there are a lot of men out there that have that feeling if they pay for a dinner, let's say, that she should be coming back to his place. And when they don't, when the girl doesn't, they feel used. They feel they were used for a dinner.
Yeah.
Is that something you've heard about at all?
Yes, for sure.
Does that make any sense to you?
It depends.
Like, we're talking a second date, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends. I mean, you can't expect anything. You can't go in expecting sex. Like, I get it. I don't think it's necessarily that you feel like you're used. I think that's what you tell yourself to make yourself feel better. Like, if a
Okay.
girl wanted to go home and have sex with you or fuck you, she's going to do that, right?
Okay.
But sometimes you'll take a girl out, you think it went well, she doesn't think it went well. And you're like, well, she didn't come home with me. She used me. It's like, no.
The defense mechanism.
Exactly.
They're
It's a
viewing
coping
it as,
mechanism.
they're
Yeah, yeah.
viewing it as rejection. So, but what about if a girl does like the guy, but she's just not, she has a thing for herself. I don't have sex until I'm at this certain point with the guy. So it's not rejection of him. Like, do guys automatically view not having sex as rejection, where maybe it's just her timeline, but she still likes the guy? Do they ever think of that?
A lot of guys will respect and like a girl more if they don't go home with them right away.
Mhm.
And they hate it, but deep down, that's the feeling.
So it's a weird thing. They're upset that she didn't go home with them.
Yeah.
And say, well, she was maybe using me, but they also respect her for not going home with him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's respect, but it creates like, I need to take her out again. I need
Okay.
to get to know her better. I need to do this. I need to do that. So that happens often. And it just sticks in your head, right? Like, I took this girl out. We had a great time. Like, why? Why didn't she want to go home with me? Why didn't she want to kiss me? Why didn't she want to have sex with me? Whatever it is. But it definitely creates like another spark in there where you're like, all right, this is
Like a
interesting.
challenge.
This is a challenge. That's a good way to
A
put it.
challenge.
This is a challenge.
There's a level of respect there too, I think, that
I
the guy
agree.
has. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. She
And I
wasn't
think-
that easy.
I think it's on the inverse side, it's more so evident where if you take a girl out and you like her a lot and first night she goes home with you, a lot of guys, not all guys, but a lot of guys are like, that was too easy.
Yeah.
I'm not
Because if
interested.
she does it with me, she'll do it. I'm nothing special.
Yeah,
She'll do it with everybody
exactly.
else. Yeah.
So for girls, that's an interesting thing, because if they're not going to just, if they have that for themselves, I don't just sleep with a guy. There needs to be a timeline here. But also the guy's paying. It's a weird thing where how long can we go where he doesn't feel used and stop because he thinks she's just for meals, where she can continue to respect herself till she's reached that point. I guess the texting and the talking would be building in between there, so he would realize he's not being used. She does like him. She's just not taking that step physically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's all communication.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you can leave a first date, they don't go home with you, or you don't get what you were hoping for, but you're like, that was
Yeah.
a great first date. We're definitely going out again. I like her. She likes me. I respect her. She respects me. So it's all a communication thing. Like, a girl can just tell you, listen, up front, I'm not going to fuck you tonight.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And
Does that ruin the night for a guy?
you think about it for sure.
I was going to ask if there is room for that transparency, to have that conversation, to be like, look, I don't have sex for the first 30 days. So
Yeah.
if you're cool with that, we're cool. If not, I'm cool with,
Like, is
You know-
that awkward, or can a girl say that?
It depends on the guy.
Yeah.
Like it just some guys just can't take it. Some
Yeah.
guys will view that as a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think what makes that different or awkward is that a lot of girls will tell you that up front and they'll go home with you that night.
Oh.
So then you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So it just depends. There's nuance to everything.
You're right. You're right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's a deal breaker for a lot of guys. I think like you come home from a date, it went great. The girl didn't go home with you. You're coming home to your friends and you're like, fuck, man,
Yeah.
why didn't she go home with me? I need to like take
Figure
her
it
out
out.
again.
Yeah.
I really like her for these reasons. It makes you think about shit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're taking out a girl first date and you're getting what you want, you're having sex, oftentimes you go home and you're like, mission accomplished.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It leaves less room for you to think about shit.
It's almost like if she waits, then it actually forces men to think further and raise the level here of their thought process with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Where if you feed that initial need, it's been satisfied and they're not going to put much more thought into it.
Get bored.
Yeah, this is why I say I do think girls have a lot of control over how these things go just by withholding. I do. And I, not to do it that way. I do think it's a respect thing, but I'm old school. But I think let there be room for growth in other areas because obviously that area is going to be fine. But let other things kind of grow out of this too before you finally take that step.
Yeah.
I guess. What were you going to say?
I forget what I was going to say.
Okay.
It's all good though.
Do you have anything else you want to ask before I ask my last question?
Sure. Just to go back to the Miami days, we were in Miami and skipped over to St. Pete. But in Miami, it's such a cultural melting pot, right? You mentioned the Hispanic influence, but it's one of my favorite things about South Florida is the multiculturalism here.
Me too.
If you compare it to Morocco, does Morocco have that same multicultural vibe and energy of like, I think of Casablanca as this exotic spot in some ways, in American opinion or perspective. Are they similar in that sense?
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the same here. The dominant presence is Moroccans, right? But you have everything. You have other Arabic people there from like Lebanon, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia. You have foreigners from Europe, from the US, from anywhere in the world. And it's a huge city and it's a big melting pot. So very much so.
Yeah.
And I always say Miami reminds me of Casablanca a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
kind
cool.
of a vibrant, does it have that same vibrant, flashy nightlife that Miami does in some ways? Or
not as much as Miami, but
I guess
it does.
Miami's unique in
Miami's
Yeah.
like I always say this, like people are like, I went to the best club in Miami. I'm like, so you went to the best club in the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it definitely does have that nightlife, that outgoing people, ability to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I don't think most places you can compare to Miami.
Yeah. One other question. I don't know if we closed on this, but are there any good Moroccan restaurants here in
And he means up by us.
Up by
Is there
us.
anything in Fort
Oh,
Lauderdale?
that's right.
or
We've got the
where we
one
at?
in Miami,
The one
but
in Miami.
anything Boynton, West Palm, Boca.
Fort
West Palm
Lauderdale?
for sure has one. I don't know of one, but I would think they have one.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
Yeah.
We can
We'll have
definitely
to go
look
to
it up. Yeah.
The one in Miami. We'll have
Yeah,
to go
yeah.
check it out, make a trip down
I'm
there.
I
down.
highly
So,
recommend it. It's
yeah.
really great.
Yeah.
Do that. Any other
I'm good.
questions?
I'm good.
Okay. So my last question is always, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I envision myself location wise in St. Petersburg, around the family. But can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Just in
from,
general.
From what sense? Like career wise, personal wise?
If you
Anything.
had to fast forward 5 years,
How old will you be in 5 years?
31.
31. So you'll be in your early 30s.
Yeah.
So in any area or all areas, where do you,
what's your
Uh,
daily life?
anything?
Career wise, I hope to still be with the same company I'm at. 5 years, I hope to be in the same role, but a higher tier of it. So I think I want to stay in sales for more than 5 more years. That's for sure. Personally, settle down with a woman, whether that's married or whether that's dating, just have someone. That's my goal, my plan. And then from a family standpoint, just taking care of everyone.
Living near your dad and brother
Yep.
over there.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
My nephew will be 6. He'll be
Wow.
being scouted by professional soccer teams at that point. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, just being around the family,
Yeah.
getting closer with the family. As I've gotten older, you realize how much more that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just taking care of my people.
Yeah.
Having a good amount of money saved up, having a house. Yeah.
Those are great goals.
Yeah.
Those are wonderful goals. And that would, would be an amazing way to start your 30s.
Mhm.
So, because I think every decade has its meanings, its lessons, and its goals and accomplishments. And it's always good as you get closer to the next one to kind of think, okay, what do I want to get out of this decade? Because before you know it, you're on to the next decade. And I always think that's a nice way to really live an authentic life, is to live it intentionally and not just kind of let it happen.
I agree.
So I think those are great goals.
I
And we're
appreciate it.
so happy that you joined us today and you shared your story.
Yep.
And you opened the window a little bit into Morocco for our listeners, because I don't think most people haven't been there. And it's kind of a very mysterious place for, at least, I think, a lot of people. I can say for us, what I've learned so much from knowing you. I've learned a lot.
Mhm.
But even today, I learned some more. So just to give us that glimpse, and then the miracle with your father.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. And I know that there will be listeners that could be life changing for them to have learned that today from you.
Mhm.
So just sharing that alone.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. My thing is, if you want to go to Morocco, go there. It's safe. They treat tourists very well. You can do whatever you want there, whether it's just being a tourist trying to blend into the culture, whether you want to go party there, whether you want to go on excursions. There's options for everything, and it's affordable and safe. I highly, highly recommend it. Um, from my dad's standpoint, medical standpoint, it is life changing, and I really do hope one person learns about that, because my dad's had the disease forever, and it took him a very long time to learn about it.
yeah,
It's still bleeding edge, it's still very new, but I can tell you from personal experience, it works, and it's given my dad his life back.
Yeah.
So if you know anyone that's been affected by Parkinson's, or if you're affected by Parkinson's, definitely look at that very seriously. It's
Yeah.
an invasive surgery, but you can find a good doctor that'll be able to pull it off.
yeah.
And yeah, to wrap it up, I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. I appreciate you guys having me. I think we've all had a lot of conversations throughout our years
Yeah.
Yep.
of friendship, my friendship with Nate. So it's great to be on here.
Yeah, no, and it's been really awesome to hear about your journey and the challenges that you encountered. I didn't realize the different things that you'd gone through. And then just to see how that led you up to Tallahassee and aided you when you were presented with that challenge. I'm so impressed with, most kids know before they start college if they're going to have to put themselves through college. So the fact that you learned that while you're already there and then pulled it off, it's so impressive.
I appreciate that.
Really, it really is. It's so impressive. So,
I actually have a question now.
yeah.
And it just made me think about it, because now just talking to you, learning more about your background makes me better understand why you're such a hustler and have been that way. What advice would you give to someone your age that's either coming out of college or is trying to figure their professional life out? Do you have any advice you would give to that makes sense or would resonate?
No one's gonna save you. You got to figure out your own shit. You're gonna have support. I hope you have support from your family and friends, but at the end of the day, it's your life, and you need to figure it out.
Mhm.
Don't be scared to take risks. They pay off, and worst thing that could happen is you learn something about yourself and about what you were trying to do. So take risks, and don't be scared to experiment with shit, whether it's your career, whether it's friends, whether
Mhm.
it's you personally. You'll figure out a lot of stuff about you throughout the way, and just work hard, and stuff will fall in line. I think if you have good discipline, you have a good routine, you work hard, things will work out for you, especially in this country. So
Yeah.
just pursue that.
That's great advice. And
Yeah.
and I think your 20s are a great decade to do all those things you
Yeah.
talked about, for
Yeah.
sure, to start all that off. So that's great advice. I think on that note, we'll close. But again, thank you, Ollie, for sharing your story, for coming here today.
Yeah.
And we look forward to having you back in the future and seeing where you're at. And for our listeners, please leave any comments or questions. And if you have any questions about the surgery that Ali's dad had, we'll definitely make sure that we get that information to Ali so we can get a good answer. He can answer you directly. And if you have any questions about Morocco, same thing. Ali will see this stuff on social media, or we will get the answers for you. So please feel free to leave those. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Awesome.